He's going down.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
Sunday, July 7th, 2019. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination episode 1153.
This is No Agenda.
Watching girls bang their heads and broadcasting live from the frontier of Austin, Texas, capital of the drone, Star State. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where it's hot everywhere else, but it's not hot here. It's 60. I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
Man, we've been having 98 days here.
It's been freezing all July.
Yeah, well, yesterday, our air conditioner went out. Why is that funny?
You're right for buying a cheap one.
Okay. All right, Dvorak. It's what I could afford on the donations we get, okay?
Well, considering today's donations, I'm surprised you could even afford to buy anything. So,
first of all, let's just start with important news. How was your experience with the quake?
What? No quake.
You didn't feel anything?
You know, this is the funny thing. This is the classic, there's some fires like, 100 miles from here. You guys okay?
Oh, yeah, look, I'm just saying that people in Vegas felt the quake.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, feeling the quake is just like a little nothing is not, I suppose you could feel it. That's because the quake was closer to Vegas than it was to Los Angeles. I can't get over these reports. Oh, Southern California. This is the middle of the Mojave Desert. It's 150 miles minimum from Los Angeles. This is like, for me, having a quake and having it, Sacramento to San Francisco Bay Area is 90 miles. 150 miles is another 60 miles further.
Okay.
It's ridiculous that people are making this.
I just asked. Okay. Get on Twitter.
What you did is you touched a nerve.
I did. Get on Twitter and rage tweet about it.
And here's something that's very peculiar that you never heard about, which I have a clip.
Oh. Well.
While this is going on, there's been quakes up in Canada around BC. I get the BC quakes clip.
Well, 3 earthquakes rattled the BC coast today, all of them significant and all of them classified by seismologists as aftershocks to a quake that hit earlier this week on Wednesday. So that quake here was a magnitude 6.2, felt hundreds of kilometers away. And here, early this morning, there was a 4.7, a 5.6, and a 4.6, all within the space of about 10 minutes. And all that comes less than a day after another quake, an unrelated one, rocking Southern California. It's a reminder that on the West Coast, bad news can always be right around the corner. So the CBC's Tanya Fletcher explores just how prepared we are.
It's freeze-dried food, it's pre-built survival kits, it's water filtration or storage. This, for example, is our...
Xenia Platten sells earthquake kits at the Total Prepare store in Victoria. She says sales tend to go up every time there's a significant earthquake.
Yeah, we've been seeing a bit more foot traffic and a few more phone-ins with questions and things. Online traffic's ticked up a little bit, yeah.
The earthquakes are happening. It stems from the series of morning aftershocks off BC's central coast, enough to jolt some out of bed.
Since they changed the scale, we really have no idea what it means. Because do you recall the Washington D.C. quake?
No.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh.
Yeah, it was. It cracked the Washington Monument. What do you mean you don't remember this? Of course you remember this.
I remember the cracking of the Washington Monument. Yes.
So let me just see what because I remember that one.
First of all, these quakes down in the Mojave. They showed us some videos, and some of those videos are pretty violent.
Yes.
Of the stores, and I'm thinking this was supposed to be a 6.2, or is this the 5.5?
No, 7.1 is 7.1 is what they said it was.
Yeah.
7.1.
Yeah, this is bothersome that they've changed.
Well, I'm looking at the August 23rd, 2011 magnitude 5.8 earthquake. Now, is this before they changed to the new momentum?
It's been changed for years and years.
Well, this is 8 years ago, so I'm asking. Was it longer than
I think it's still after the change. I think the change is about
so the 5.8 was pretty significant. I remember that one. I was there. So a
I'm
7.1
just
on the
annoyed
new
by
scale.
This change.
Yeah, we've talked about it for all
Because
these
you had
years.
that's what we haven't talked about. We bitch about it constantly. So you have a 6.2 in BC area. It's off the coast, but that doesn't mean anything compared to we just is useless.
The thing that is interesting is the location of these quakes in California. It's not the San Andreas Fault.
No, it's nowhere near.
It is right near the. Actually, not. It's almost on the China Lake weapons test site.
Yes,
I hate to say it, but
you don't hate to say it.
No, I love to say it. What are we doing there? Are we testing the earthquake machine again, or did you guys bore too many tunnels? See, the DC thing, I kind of understood. With all the secret train tunnels everywhere, and some even claim that they've tunnels of trains that go all the way to Colorado. To the backup site. Yeah, I know. We've heard this. We don't know if it's true. But if you start drilling around in the earth, you can get stuff going wacky. Look at the northern part of Holland, Groningen.
That's because of the fracking, right?
That's because of fracking, yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
But it gets out of control up there in that Holland area where the fracking is just going nuts.
Yeah, but nothing like the 7.1. I spoke to people in California who are, I lived in Los Angeles. I lived in San Francisco. I don't think I really witnessed any earthquakes when I was in San Francisco and Los Angeles, several. And, you get real blasé. It's like, whatever, it's a quake, it's fine.
Well, even when you witness them, you stay blasé.
You get blasé. But the people I spoke to were like, this was a little more than the blasé type feeling. Some people were rattled by this one.
Well, a lot of people were rattled by the 89. I remember this story. PC Computing was a major player back in 1989 with the Loma Prieta earthquake, and which hit the peninsula quite hard, mostly the peninsula, and it hit the Bay Area in general. And it was but people who've never experienced any sort of earthquake, there's a low note with a big quake. That is disconcerting. It really shakes. It's a bone rattler. Yeah. And it makes you very uneasy. And there was a whole bunch of people who were from New York that were in the offices of PC Computing on that day, and they flew out as fast as they just got out of town as fast as they would refuse to come to California after that. And it had to be because the effect of this low note that occurs in many quakes.
It's like ground loop resonance. It's a horrible.
It's a horrible experience.
I think you're right. It goes through your bones because it is a vibration that your body gets in tune with.
Yeah, it's a harmonic vibration.
Yes, resonance.
It's the one that they use to kill people.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Who uses that to kill people with?
Well, we have the evidence that there's been weapons developed like a 5-cycle node or something at very high frequencies, and it shakes people and kills them. Blows up your liver or something like that.
Oh, wait. I think I have an example of it. I'm hoping.
Your timing's got to be better.
I know. Well, hey, it's July. What can I tell you? I don't have the. Oh, yeah, here it is. This is the one. Okay, everybody, get ready. We're going to kill you. Ow.
Well, that's another problem. That note.
That's the Zenergy chime. We can kill you with that one for sure.
It definitely gets your attention.
Anyway,
I'm always bothered by these. California state as a state is like, I don't know, 800 miles long or something, and it's something happens in California. It really only affects a very small area of the giant state. Yeah, giant state.
So you're not worried about anything happening up there, are you?
No, I still think the big whopper that's going to be dangerous is supposed to hit Southern California, according to all the experts.
Oh, it won't hit Northern California?
No, the next one. Well, eventually something's going to hit Northern California. Because sure.
I'm lining up backup hosts, so I just want to gauge you on the
I could do it. Hey, if anyone could do the show in a quake, it's me.
Yes, if you live.
Wooden houses.
Yeah. Hey, I think we both may be wrong. A rare occasion.
Well, we have to wait. But what are we referring to? The shoes?
Yeah, the shoes.
You're just trying to get out of it.
I'm sorry?
Go on.
No, I'm not trying to get out of anything.
I said go on.
My research has not stopped. We have a small disagreement. John has the feeling that Nike set up the controversy over the Betsy Ross shoe with Kaepernick as a PR stunt to sell more shoes. I vehemently disagree. I believe it was blackmail, that they were shamed into doing this, and money might have been paid, or it should have been paid if it was blackmail. We both agreed that if the shoes go on sale, then John would be correct. If not, I would be correct. I think we're both wrong, and that is based on a podcast. Because, gosh, you can't get anything from the mainstream. I kept trying to find out who actually brought this into the media. And again, it's unnamed sources, people familiar with the matter, from Associated Press, from PBS, from the Wall Street Journal. All three of them reported on this story. None of them have any quotes. Nike did not mention Kaepernick in any of their communications. Kaepernick has not publicly communicated anything regarding the matter. But of all people, Adam Carolla, sometimes confused with me, the actual Podfather, does a podcast with Mark Garagos, and his client, as we discussed in the previous episode, is Colin Kaepernick, amongst other prominent people like Jussie Smollett. So a fine guy to do a podcast with. They do it. It's called, what is this podcast called? It's called Reasonable Doubt. And Carolla asked Garagos straight up, what's going on with this?
I would be wildly inconsistent if I didn't scream at your boy Colin Kaepernick for this.
By the way, how racist is that? Sorry, but you can't
Believe me, this is cracking me up right away.
You can't just say your boy Colin Kaepernick unless he's not black. I don't know. What's going on, Carolla?
I would be wildly inconsistent if I didn't scream at your boy Colin Kaepernick for this stupid Nike tweet, or whatever he did. But
it's an interesting point.
He doesn't even get the facts straight.
I know. But Garagos is going to come in and he has some interesting data points.
How does that work? Why does Nike cave? Why does he give a shit? And what's going on?
Are you teasing or should we talk
I'm asking.
Okay. I just saw an article that Nike increased their market cap by $3 billion since dropping it.
Now, he'll repeat this, and we'll talk about this maybe later, but this was a meme that was propagating very quickly. Oh, Nike, they made $3 billion. No one seems to understand what market cap is about anymore. So, hey, man, they did a good job. They made $3 billion. $3 billion richer. Everybody getting paid. No. Their stock price went up 1%. Like 1.5 points. Oh, so it's market cap value, and it can go down by $5 billion tomorrow. But this was it's interesting that this is now brought up.
Well, let's explain just real short. The market cap is short for market capitalization, which is for all practical purposes, which has to be separated from enterprise value, which people can do on their dig and look that one up. But market cap is if you took the stock, today's price of the stock, and liquidated it at that price at that moment. That's what that number is.
Right. And they're about $108 billion. The stock went up over 2 days, went up about 1.5 points.
It goes up, it goes down.
It goes up, it goes down. They won't report on, the losing billions of dollars because that's not what you do. The only time it's interesting is when someone hits the $1 trillion market cap, such as Apple, and then, they drop below it. And it's not like anyone made or lost money, except perhaps investors who play the stock market. We continue.
Again, I'm asking.
Okay. I just saw an article that Nike increased their market cap by $3 billion since dropping it. And my guess as to what happened,
Are you
by the way, he's guessing. He knows damn well.
Are you privy to any of this stuff?
Yes. They showed, the shoe was shown to him. He had expressed a reservations about them using the shoe. They decided to drop it. Somebody at I assume in Nike's headquarters, apparently a disgruntled somebody, decides they're going to leak it to, I want to say, the Wall Street Journal.
Now, this is interesting. So he says he presumes it was a disgruntled employee. No, there was no mention in any of these articles a disgruntled employee or someone who was pissed off. So he's really making an assumption, and I think he's full of shit here.
And it becomes a firestorm all this week. But Nike has the last laugh because I just looked this morning and they've put $3 billion onto market cap while Under Armour, Adidas, and Puma were all down substantially in this market.
How does the process work where they vet the shoe with him?
He's the face of the Just Do It 30th anniversary campaign. And by the way, as people I don't think understand just about how effective that has been. They know what they're doing. I mean, they know who their demographic is. Their demographic is not Ted Cruz, and their demographic is not that governor. And I don't want to mispronounce his.
Is he trying to say the demographic is black people, or what is he trying to say? Did he telling us who it's not?
Name Duche or Dushi in Arizona.
Right.
So that's not the target demo. The target demo are people who have a viewpoint, and so.
Oh, really? No. The people who have a viewpoint, that's their target. So, social justice warriors.
Persuasion.
Their demo are people that hate their dads. They have to hate their dads.
By the way, he did it privately. He didn't show.
Well, it
must have come from them.
Here's what I want to say. Here's my honest take on this. I draw a great distinction between stuff that is done in public and stuff that is done in private. And I draw a distinction. Now, I don't like that we live in a country where we vet shoes with Kaepernick and then he gives the thumbs down because they have 13 stars on it. I don't like that that's what our society has become, but we're living in it. And if people are doing it for publicity, then I really don't like it. If the intent is to quietly go about this and get on with our lives, I have a different viewpoint of the transaction. And you are telling me that they show it to him, he gives notes, and then theoretically they quietly go back and implement his notes without the like we would never know that this shoe existed if this person from Nike who is disgruntled didn't leak it.
It's all I'm connecting the dots because he certainly. There was no way that he was the one who was saying that or releasing that or anything else. And obviously, the shoe was timed for July 4th. The leak and the story went viral because of the 4th of July. And so I'm with you in terms of if it's done quietly. Look, I've got reservations about it, which is exactly what was done. He certainly wasn't the one who released it.
Yeah.
I got an idea for you to pitch to
So he's talking about the leak. I don't know. For sure, it seems that the shoes were already at retail.
Yes, that's what I understand.
And because that's how they're winding up on eBay.
Yeah, and that would make no sense with his basic thesis is that the shoes were kept a secret and this one guy leaked them, which isn't obviously the case. I would posit, get to use
my word. It's my word.
I would say that I'm still sticking with my original thesis, but it's possible that what could have been the fly in the ointment was someone at the company saying, hey, this looks, if we bring out these shoes on July the 4th, this looks like exploitation of the American flag, and this is not going to go over. We should probably, and they decided to pull the shoes or do something and then maybe bring them out later.
And then maybe they blamed it on Kaepernick?
I don't know who blamed it on Kaepernick. I think if there's a disgruntled employee, he's the one who blamed it on Kaepernick.
Yes, exactly.
I'm pretty sure Kaepernick had nothing to do with it. Why are they running a shoe idea past him?
Now,
did they bring Jordan Kaepernick and say, you like this color?
John, if you're going to run something past a guy whose ultimate input can stop the shoe, you don't do that when they're at retail. So it's just bullshit. Kaepernick may have nothing to do with it.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't. And I think he's been told to just shut up and, we'll take care of it later.
But now let's look at this market cap, because this story went viral. Like, oh, Nike rakes in $3 billion. Okay, so let's just take the stupidity, the stupid interpretation of that, like it was a good thing for them not to do this. What does that mean for future social justice movements by this company or any other brand that has something to say?
Personally, I don't think it means anything because while some people were all jacked up about it, I don't think the company cared one way or the other.
I know,
the market cap goes up and down constantly.
I'm talking about perception. This is what people are. This is the story now. The story is they pulled back.
I understand that, but the company themselves, I don't think.
No, in perception, you're missing my point. You're missing my point. From a social justice perspective, would it now be in Nike's true? We know it has nothing to do really with market cap. People believe that now, so let's just leave it as it is. From a social justice warrior perspective, is it good or not good for Nike to portray its brand values in its product and in its advertising, based on the fact that the market cap went up when they clearly showed their brand values?
I don't know.
I would say
I don't think it makes a difference personally.
Oh, you're being too literal about it. Okay, it's all right. I'm trying to ask you a different question. You're just not understanding what I'm asking.
Well, clarify.
Okay, so forget
you think that Nike's going to be more reactive?
No, I'm not talking about Nike. I'm talking about people. People, will they now think
people are going to give a shit about Nike's market cap? I don't know. I'm completely befuddled by what you're trying to ask me.
Okay, never mind. Now, actually, I'm annoyed by the fact you don't understand what I'm saying. We know the market cap is bullshit. The perception is they made $3 billion. That's just the perception. Can we just leave that as it is?
Only the perception amongst idiots.
I know. Who do you think I'm talking about? Will the idiots...
Are you trying to make the claim that social justice warriors are idiots?
All right. Yes, I am. And here's Andrew Doyle, writer and comedian and gay man at the BBC, complaining about the social justice warriors and the brand values who are hijacking gayness and pride.
I think we're all used to the idea of corporations and companies cynically exploiting gay people for a quick buck. I think, yeah, absolutely. It's always been the pink pound. It's an ongoing thing. I think now what's happened, though, is there's a kind of critical mass, and I completely take on board what you're saying. I think, though, we have to accept that there is a sense that this is slightly distasteful. This is a flag that, after all, is related to activism and the concept of pushing for equal rights, and now it is being manipulated as a kind of indicator that you are good, that you are virtuous.
Jeez,
and
hold on a second.
Quote unquote.
That guy talks so fast. If you could get, you can't do it on the fly, obviously, but if you could tweak his equalization, because he would sound like Ben Shapiro.
A British gay Ben Shapiro.
As a kind of indicator that you are good, that you are virtuous, and that you're on the quote unquote the right side of history. And that's not what it should be about. That's not what it should be meaning. And I think a lot of gay people, in particular, are starting to feel that this is misrepresenting what they stand for. I mean, I went into a very popular Japanese chain. I won't say what it's called. And the mat told me that they were proud that they didn't discriminate against LGBT people. And my feeling about that is, well, why would you? My default expectation is that you wouldn't. We don't live in a society where that sort of thing is acceptable. And it reminds me of when people started a campaign where they wore safety pins to broadcast the idea that they're not racist. Again, I would assume you weren't. And I'd feel a lot more comfortable about these corporations doing this if, for instance, they'd have done the same before the Equality Act in 2010, if they'd done the same before Section 28 was repealed in 2003, if they'd done the same before the age of consent was equalised in 2001. We have to accept that they've taken a market decision to make as much money as possible, and they've calculated that.
See, I guess what I was getting at is the era of brand values and virtue signaling those brand values, which really aren't their values or mission statement, but their marketing values, is that over, or is it really just starting to ramp up big? And so on the one hand, I feel that people feel vindicated by saying, see, when you are a social justice warrior, and
I see,
then you win as a company. And here on the other side is the BBC, and I'd like the term the pink pound. I thought that was a good term. this guy is saying, "Hey, we're being exploited, and it's disingenuous."
Gee, get in line. Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, but where do you think? To me, it sounds like it's just on the cusp of getting worse. I guess that's what my.
It could be. I mean, it's possible. It's not going to get better. I think these guys would look for it. Whatever happened, it would be like, oh, the market cap went up. That's great because that means that it worked. Yeah. Oh, the market cap went down. Oh, that's great. That shows that we have an effect.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't win with these people.
Right.
By the way, I just safety pin thing. I forgot about that.
I
was thinking about this.
I remember we followed that movement.
I remember the safety pin thing. We talked about it, but I'm thinking I want everyone to send me lists of things like these short-term phenomenons that were faddish, and we've kind of not even noticed how faddish they were. Gangnam Style. I mean, these
here's Katie Hopkins from 2016 with a report on the safety pins.
My biggest rage this week has been about safety pins and race hate. So I am sick to death of hearing about race hate in the wake of the Leave vote. I think it's entirely a conjecture that's been dreamt up by sore losers from the Remain campaign in order to try and make it sound like race haters are people that voted Leave, that we are thick, that we are stupid, and that we are racist. And frankly, we are not.
That's interesting. I've completely forgot that it happened around the Brexit vote. So it was a way. It was a way.
Another example of what I'm just said.
A way to virtue signal that you're not a hater like all those Brexiteers. Wear my safety pin. We used to wear safety pins as earrings back in the 70s.
Ugh.
And we'd have a safety pin. Someone had them through your nose. I had one on my lapel. And it was all the rage.
Less bloody.
It was all the rage.
Your lapel's made of meat.
Let's talk briefly about the 4th of July, which was America's celebration. Which
it was a real dud.
Let's start with the compilation just before the celebration from the M5M, who were pontificating about what they expected it to be.
Donald Trump has.
Sorry?
Did you know that it took $2 million away from from the national parks?
Yes, those bastards.
Donald Trump has hijacked the nation's previously nonpartisan 4th of July celebration.
Is this just norm-defying, or is there anything dangerous about it?
It's just obscene.
And the speech is going to be dreadful.
They're going to have their Confederate flags flying and their license plates and all kinds of troublemaking.
You will hear criticism of his critics. You will hear a celebration of self.
There'll be a lot of other people that are going to meet like in a storm, and you're going to have a real conflict.
There's all kinds of catastrophes. They're not sure if the bridges over the Potomac can handle the tanks.
He's turning a traditionally nonpartisan event into a Trump-focused campaign-style rally.
Sure looks like a partisan re-election rally on public space.
Donald Trump's campaign rally in Washington paid for by the American taxpayer.
A campaign event.
Some kind of a campaign speech.
A political rally.
Partisan event.
Combination Trump rally and Kim Jong-un style military parade. The president's vision bears a closer resemblance to the chest-thumping displays put on by authoritarian regimes.
This is the kind of military display that we were used to seeing from the Soviet Union.
I'm thinking Red Square, North Korea, Egypt.
The hope for violence would be, of course, treasonous. Not to expect it would be naive.
Oh, they were all so disappointed.
These people are out of control. By the way, I'm going to give you a borderline. I know where you got that. You didn't put it together.
I did not put it together.
But it's a dynamite little compilation.
Now, from a television production standpoint, what a piece of shit show. That was horrible. Did no one think that the ballistic glass would get wet and look like he should start singing Rhythm of the Rain? I mean, it was real. First of all, what's the deal with the ballistic glass? That's new.
I have no idea. But this is one of those situations where I guess, I don't know, it's the snipers.
Secondarily, if you use the Lincoln Memorial as your backdrop, don't put people in front of Lincoln. You could not see Lincoln sitting there, the grand, majestic shot that it was supposed to be. This was a botch. A total botch. It looked like shit. It made the president look very weak behind this glass. You could not see the statuesqueness of the setting. The weather was sad. I don't know if the tanks didn't roll out because of the weather.
No, they were never intended to roll out. That was all.
That was all conjecture.
Dreamed up by MSNBC that they're going to be rolling tanks.
I did like seeing the stealth bomber. That was cool. Like that thing. I don't think I've seen one fly that close to the ground.
That's a beautiful plane.
That was badass. I'm like, yeah. And then you got the Blue Angels, and they did their little
Blue
thing.
Angels here all the time. I don't see what the.
We got Fleet Week. I mean, they have them every.
Fleet Week costs more money than that event did, apparently.
Every football game, we have these flyovers. But it really, the speech was very meh. I understand what he was trying to do. Now, luckily, he made it a little bit more exciting with this massive gaffe.
And seized victory from Cornwallis of Yorktown. Our army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. And
I know. And I'm like, did he say their ports? Did it just come out wrong? No, he said the airports.
He said airports.
He said they took over the airports. Now, of course, this was not his fault, as you can imagine.
It was never his fault.
No, there was an excuse.
Yeah, the teleprompter went out. It kept going on, and then at the end, it just went out. It went kaput. So I could have said, and actually right in the middle of that sentence, it went out. And that's not a good feeling. I guess the rain knocked out the teleprompter. So, but no, it's not that. I knew the speech very well, so I was able to do it without a teleprompter. But the teleprompter did go out. And it was actually hard to look at anyway because there was rain all over it.
Well, I'm not buying that.
I don't know, but here's what we're missing, and this is something I don't think we collected any clips of this. In fact, I'm pretty sure because I don't remember them, but I do remember the moment where he rants and raves and goes on and on and on about Obama and his teleprompters.
Yes, and then this.
And now we got him all addicted to teleprompters out of the blue, which is teleprompters are what they are.
But it's worse than that. On whitehouse.gov, it has his speech. And he says, our army manned the air. It rammed the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. Come on. I mean, it's either in the prompter correctly or it's not. It's either in the speech correctly or it's not. He was either sabotaged, but I doubt a little bit of rain.
I would suspect.
It was dumb. Now, it made Twitter fun because I just love the memes. You have George Washington in a flying, trying to board an airplane.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's almost, of course, when you bring it up as sabotage or is it done on purpose, sometimes you have to wonder.
I don't think this was on, but he really wanted this to be a great salute to the military. He loves all that stuff. And he was narrating the flyovers. He wanted this to be a great show. The weather was crap and the setting was crap. It was a shit show. It was horrible.
Well, I don't know one way or the other because I think I'm like most people. Unless I was standing there in the audience, I never saw a second of it. I didn't see 1 second of it. It was at the wrong time, at least for the West Coast. I had other things to do. So you covered it for the show. I did. I sure don't know what.
Yes, I did. I covered it for the show. I liked seeing, as I said, I like seeing our stealth bomber. I always, I'm an air guy, aircraft guy. I like seeing that. Now, all this unhinged crap over what it cost. Please give me a break. And now they're all butthurt that he didn't go off and make it into a campaign rally. And now I didn't clip it because I got bored of it, but they were calling it Schoolhouse Rock Explanation of Our History. Okay, fine.
Who cares?
Exactly.
Jeez, it's like Gangnam Style.
But then we get the news dropping all of a sudden, which always seems to happen on show days.
Billionaire Jeffrey Epstein has been arrested on new sex trafficking charges. A source tells CBS 4 federal agents took him into custody yesterday at a New Jersey airport after he was indicted on 1 count of sex trafficking and 1 count of conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. Federal agents also searched his home. Epstein has long faced accusations of sexually abusing underage girls. He'll be in court tomorrow.
Now, this is going to have a long tail.
Well, the thing is, what happened? What changed? What did they do? Did someone bust into his place and grab the evidence against all these highfalutin folk that could be, embarrassed by the Epstein revelations, which would definitely occur?
Well, there's two things. There's something else that took place last week, and that was the unsealing of all of these court cases, which is about 2,000 documents, one of which is very, very clearly indicts President Trump, then Donald J. Trump, businessman, as a pedophile rapist. I mean, and it's a Jane Doe and a Tiffany Doe, and these are not being relitigated. There is apparently 2 new indictments against Epstein that will be open to the public tomorrow. But what you're reading on the social media, just to show you the derangement, is he's going down, the pedophile. Trump's going down, and Acosta, his lawyer, who should go down because the deal that Jeffrey Epstein got was clearly an elitist bull crap punishment. This guy should be behind bars for the rest of his life with his cohorts. What's the Maxwell daughter? She was the recruiter. It all ties into I think it even ties into that NXIVM sex cult. It's a mess. Now, is Trump involved in it? I don't know.
It doesn't seem like his style.
Well, he's not afraid of it, and I think this shows proof. 2015 CPAC, when he was being vetted by the CPAC for the role of president, Sean Hannity asked him specifically about Bill Clinton. Here was the answer.
Bill Clinton. Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
Now, he wouldn't say that if he expected himself to have a lot of problems.
I would agree with that.
So,
but he probably was close enough to it to know that Clinton has a lot of problems.
Yes.
And he was on the plane, or he knew Epstein.
Yeah, I don't think Trump was ever on the plane. I think he flew his own plane. I'm pretty sure he was there at least once.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right about that. If he ever went there.
Why would he go on Epstein's plane?
Why would he go on somebody else's plane? It's like going on, this is one of those things where you want to go to dinner with some friends, and there's a bunch of people going to go, oh, we'll pick you up. Nah, I'll take my own car because I don't want to stay.
So just to reiterate for people who are new to the case, Jeffrey Epstein, very wealthy hedge fund manager, he has, I think, still an island, and that's where he allegedly flew underage girls down there that were recruited, and then they would wind up having sex with his guests. Prince Andrew has been implicated. Who's the prince from Monaco? Whatever his name is, Grimaldi, last name Grimaldi. Bill Clinton. Now, there's a lot of Bill Clinton in this. He apparently took 25 or 26 trips on Epstein's private 737 airplane known as the Lolita Express. But this would really come down to who was blackmailable. And who do they have on camera? Because that's the part that is interesting in all this paperwork is Epstein had cameras everywhere, presumably to blackmail politicians and other rich folk.
Yeah, it's a technique.
So I personally don't think anything's going to come out of this, except maybe Epstein will go to jail for a long time where he belongs. But I don't think we're going to see anything massively interesting come out of it.
I'm not going to argue with that. Probably even the Clinton stuff won't come out.
What good is it?
We
all?
Still have the opportunity for,
The opportunity for what?
Well, Bill's getting old. Let's put it that way.
Oh, is it Bill's time? Is this the embarrassment that just goes a little bit too far for the Hillary assassination group?
I don't know.
Mm. Do you have anything?
I
on
think
this?
It was sick that we kept bringing this up, and I'm not going to bring it up anymore.
So I take it you don't have any clips or anything on this.
No, I have none, but I do have a clip backing up to the Trump flub.
Okay.
There was one of the big stories that was this week was the census question as to the
yes,
are you a citizen, which has become a scandalous question. And so I have two clips on this, and one of them is funnier than the other. But let's start with the PBS version of this story, which is an important story.
President Trump said he is considering issuing an executive order to get a citizenship question added to the 2020 U.S. Census. This after the Supreme Court ruling last week to block the federal government from adding that question. Mr. Trump spoke to reporters this morning before he left for a weekend at his New Jersey golf club.
I just spoke with the Attorney General. We have a number of different avenues. We could use all of them or one. We're doing very well on that issue. We're spending $15 to $20 billion on a census. We're doing everything. We're finding out everything about everybody. Think of it. $15 to $20 billion, and you're not allowed to ask them, are you a citizen?
I don't like it when the president says, quote, we're finding out everything about everybody. I don't like that. That's not what the census is supposed to be. It's very simple.
It's supposed to be a head count, but they've gotten carried away because they use it as marketing information. Is what that's
precisely
what it's used for.
Yes, marketing. You're so right.
It's used for marketing.
Yeah.
All right. So meanwhile, NBC decides to do a story on the census story, and now you have to listen to this complete presentation. Classic NBC, which is part of the MSNBC operation, the other way around, but the same thing. So why do they present now? This story is specifically about the census question, but listen to the way this presented and what spurious information, because apparently they had no other outlet for this information. So they decide to slam Trump in an awkward way with this story. I just was beside myself.
In Washington, President Trump is engaged in a new war of words tonight with former Vice President Joe Biden and refusing to back down in his battle to get a question about citizenship on the census. Hans Nichols has more.
But we're paying a lot.
Tonight, fresh off his military-themed salute to America,
the future belongs to us.
The president blaming this flub about George Washington's army.
It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
On a teleprompter snafu.
The teleprompter went out, and that's not a good feeling.
And today, the president announcing he's still trying to find a way to ask a question about citizenship on the census after the Supreme Court had stopped the administration's efforts.
We're working on a lot of things, including an executive order.
Mr. Trump's comments come as government lawyers scramble to find a legal way to carry out his orders, despite their conclusion earlier in the week that no such pathway exists. Meanwhile, in the race to take on the president, Joe Biden telling CNN he was not ready for those debate attacks from Senator Kamala Harris on race and busing in the 1970s.
I was prepared for them to come after me, but I wasn't prepared for the person coming at me the way she came out. She knew Bo. She knows me.
But insisting that he wouldn't be caught with his guard down against the man he wants to replace.
The idea that I'd be intimidated by Donald Trump, he's the bully that I knew my whole life. He's the bully that I've always stood up to.
I don't think I'm a bully at all. I just don't like being taken advantage of by other countries. If you look at what we've straightened out, I call it the Obama-Biden mess. We're straightening it out.
As for that citizenship question, administration lawyers told a federal judge in Maryland today that they would be pursuing all options. But the government has already started printing census forms without it.
This whole clip was like a ratatouille.
It was
of
the
hate
worst.
Trump.
First they blast Trump for saying airports, and then they got this Biden part about him and Kamala Harris.
It's going to beat him up.
What does this have to do with the story?
Well, they had to fill 1 minute and 54 seconds, apparently.
It was my jaw dropped when I watched this package. It was like, How about talking about the story and not Biden and Harris and Trump in the airport? It's just this is how bad NBC has become. That was a piece of crap, that report.
NPR did a piece on the census, and they brought in the former from 2000 who did the 2009 census. So the former census director, I guess you'd call him, Kenneth Pruitt. And I have 3 short clippies to share of his interview.
The remarkable thing about what happened in 1942, basically, but using 1940 census data, the roundup of the Japanese Americans on the West Coast, is that we're still talking about it 70 years later. Every census that comes along, once again, the Japanese case gets brought to the surface, and the argument always is you can't trust the Census Bureau. Look what they did back in 1940. So, yes, it cast a very long, dark shadow. This is going to be a census, as it's shaping up right now, which will leave a partisan marker on the census, I think, for a very long time.
Now, let's just get something very straight, because I've heard this Japanese roundup, Japanese Americans. It was super egregious because they were Americans. And, they're conflating now a question about citizenship, which has been on many, many census questionnaires, with this absolute stain in American history unfairly. And here's why this is all a problem.
Would you talk a little bit more for people who still don't understand this issue, why it is that a question like that could suppress people's willingness to participate?
The current environment in the United States is one of mistrust of government, having nothing to do with the census, and also anxiety about privacy, again, having nothing to do with the census, having to do with the Facebook revelations and so forth and so on. So it's a setting right now, a political setting, in which it's kind of very hard to do this job. There's only one definition of a good census, and that's one that counts everyone correctly, only once, and only in the right place. That's what makes for a good census.
And I guess that means you count everybody, even if they're here illegally. And the problem with that is it's not just about redistricting or number of representatives. It does really all evolve around money.
If the census is inaccurate, what effect does it have?
Well, if there's a differential undercount, that is, some groups are missed at higher rates than other groups, or some regions, geographic areas are missed at higher levels than other regions, the amount of money that is tied to census results is in the billions. The amount of that money does not change. Only its allocation changes. So a state or demographic group which is undercounted in the census will get less than its fair share. And by definition, those which were totally counted at 100%, they will get part of an unfair share because they're getting the money that's left over from the people that were not counted. So that's a big consequence, because you're talking about health care, you're talking about transportation systems, you're talking about disaster preparedness. A large number of things which get federal support are allocated on the basis of the fundamental census count.
And now you understand why politicians don't want any segregation. Because then if someone says, hey, I'm not a citizen, but I'm here, that'll be great. Thank you very much. You do not count for extra money or something like that. No?
There's no evidence of that. You still get the money. If you are there, one reason or another, you may not get the representation in Congress.
Okay.
Which would have,
which is also a big deal.
I don't think the money is part of that.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the Supreme Court say, look, you guys it's a mess. Come back and ask again when you've got your shit straightened out? I'm paraphrasing to an extreme degree. Or maybe that's exactly how Ginsburg said it. But
I don't think they said that, but I think this is what they meant.
Okay, so can they come back in time before this is done? Or
well, according to the NBC report, which was
executive
a
order
of information, they're already printing the things without the question on it.
Well, then what's the problem?
But we don't know. Well, first of all, we don't know that if that's true because the NBC report was so poorly done. It could just be a pack of lies. I don't know. They can stop the printing process and start over. I have no idea. I know Trump is adamant about this.
Yeah, it's something like 19 billion pages or some crazy amount of paper that's going to be used for this. Just to go back to Joe for a second, and I think it was that possibly the same interview. Joe is a nice source of gaffe material. Not unlike Trump, really. It's old white guys, but take us as an example, can sometimes be very funny. The question was about NATO, and see if you can find the gaffe.
The former chancellor of Germany stands up. She says, we have to go it alone. We can't count on the United States. Why did we set up NATO, Chris? So no one nation could abuse the power in the region, in Europe, that would suck us in a way they did in World War I and World War II. It's being crushed. Look at what's happening with Putin. While Putin is trying to undo our elections, he is undoing elections in Europe. Look what's happened in Hungary. Look what's happened in Poland. Look what's happened in Moldova. Look what's happening. You think that would have happened on my watch or Barack's watch? You can't answer that, but I promise you it wouldn't have, and it didn't.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there was something in there.
Really?
But it was just blabbling away. It's pretty hard to follow if he said anything. I mean, he did call Merkel the former chancellor. I don't know if that was the gaffe. But I doubt it.
No. I think I'll pinpoint it here for you.
In Europe. Look what's happened in Hungary. Look what's happening
I'm sorry, let's
Poland.
go back.
Happening with Putin. While Putin is trying to undo our elections, he is undoing elections in.
So first he's saying, well, Putin was trying to undo our election. Now he's actually doing this in Europe. But then listen to what he says.
Europe. Look what's happened in Hungary. Look what's happened in Poland. Look what's happened in Moldova. Look what's happening. You think that would have happened on my watch or Barack's watch?
It actually did happen on your watch, Joe Biden. The Russians meddled in the elections on your watch. He was vice president at the time.
Yes. Very good catch, and it did slip past me. I don't think I would have caught that.
I'll play it one time in context, and then we'll be done with that.
It was their watch. It was Barack's and Biden's watch when it happened.
Biden's.
It's being crushed. Look at what's happening with Putin. While Putin is trying to undo our elections, he is undoing elections in Europe. Look what's happened in Hungary. Look what's happened in Poland. Look what's happened in Moldova. Look what's happening. You think that would have happened on my watch or Barack's watch? You can't answer that, but I promise you it wouldn't have, and it didn't.
I think he realized it. That's why I said, you can't answer that. I think he realized it. Like,
I think you're right.
You can't answer that. You wouldn't know.
He was trying to cover the flub.
Yeah. Hey, I'm trying to figure out, I watched the first half, USA versus the Netherlands. Is this game over? Did who won? Because I've been voting for the USA. Well, I'm asking the troll room, and I was hoping they would give me an answer.
That's just easy to look up.
Yeah, I was. Yes, okay, it's over. Game over. 2-0 for the U.S. Yoo-hoo!
Yeah, actually, there was an expert that predicted the score of 2-0.
Really?
Because apparently the U.S. is very good defensively, and they wear the other team out, and they score early, and then they can shut a team out very easily.
Well, they did not score early.
Overall talent.
They did not score early. Not in the first half. I thought both teams were very, very strong. How
strong is scoring no points?
I have incredible adversity now against Rapinoe, the USA captain, just because she's
just the one that hates America.
Yeah, that one. she hates Trump, that's for sure, and she thinks the White House is no good. That's too bad. I like Alex Morgan a lot from the USA team, but I feel bad for the Dutch. Well, they can do it next time. This is their first time in the finals. They'll come back. I think the game itself won. A lot of people were excited about women's soccer, women's football, and I'm happy about that. And I'm glad my home country won. Good try, what? Holland. Huh?
You mean you were glad that they lost?
My home country is America.
Oh, you always confuse the audience.
No, the audience has some misinformation. I'm American. I've always been American. I've never had a Dutch passport. I've never had dual nationality. I had nothing to do with it. I didn't ask to move there. I enjoyed it. But go America.
You speak fluent, unaccented Dutch.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
En Anniemetterberg staat in Vriet. Yeah, you didn't know that, did you?
Well, congratulations to the Dutch team for putting up a
good fight.
Kind of, yeah.
I'm sure they put up a good
doing
fight.
the best they can. of appearing.
They showed up.
Of participating. Thanks for coming.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, I'll have to watch the highlights. Okay, let's see. Do we have any? Oh, yes. I did want to just mention that the big fight started on July 4th, the Mastodon Gab Fediverse fight.
Oh, yes. This is one of your, this is your beat.
Yeah, so we have the Fediverse, which is a federation of social media servers. We have our own. It's called noagendasocial.com. Anyone can join. You'll have to get an invitation from the troll room, so go to noagendastream.com to get that. And any server with this open source software it's like your own little Twitter, only it doesn't have the algos in there to mess with your head. It's all, last in, first up, most recent is at the top, reverse chronological order. And then you can follow and you can send messages back and forth, tweets, although they're called toots in Mastodon world, across servers. And it's been very, very fun because we have our own little quadroon sitting around. We got a couple thousand people who are members, and then people from other servers can follow us. Now, almost immediately upon us joining the Federation, we were blocked by some of the largest instances because they are complete social justice warrior retards, I will just use the word, and completely out of control, and are now conflating the Mastodon project with some kind of philosophy and social justice movement, which, as far as I'm concerned, software has no business being a part of. It's just that. It's just software. And so Gab probably couldn't handle their scale anymore, and they decided that they were going to change their entire system. They were going to fork the Mastodon code, which is completely legal to do in the open software,
open source software world.
Yes, and you can do with it as you want. You can change it. You can add stuff. You can remove stuff. And if you do add stuff, you do have to publish that. And
that becomes open source.
It becomes open source. Yeah, it's kind of like a virus. So if it touches the open source, then it has to become open source as well. Now, Gab, which was started as an alternative to Twitter, mainly for people being kicked off Twitter and who are of a conservative mindset in general. Although certainly having an account there, you have an account there, it doesn't seem to be as nutty as you'd expect it to be, like it's just all swastikas and Heil Hitler. In fact, I haven't really seen any of that. So they decided to federate. They did that on July 4th. Now, the scale of this project for them must have been quite immense. I know the troubles we run into with our little server. Bandwidth, disks issues, images, just filling up disk drives, terabytes at a time. It's a big project. So they started without a couple of features, with a couple of timelines. Now, have you ever paid for Gab? Do you have to pay for your account, or is it just free? No. Okay, because I supported them by getting a pro account. I don't know what you get with that, but I said, I'll give these guys $50. They need help, and that's how they apparently, there's a value for value model for all intents and purposes. Now, July 4th, they start to federate. It doesn't work really well. The back end is slow. I tried to send a message to myself on Gab's server, so I did it from noagendasocial.com. Took about a day for it to show up. And some things went faster, some things went slower.
Yeah.
Now, however, the Mastodon, and this is the philosophy and the so-called community, which we've been blocked from, not the software itself, is up in arms. And they are so mad about the Nazis coming into the Federation that they have pre-blocked everybody and everything. We'll never let you communicate with those Nazis over there. But they're completely disingenuous. And I figured out what they're really mad about. I'm going to read a little bit from the statement on Gab's... I wonder
where you were going with this.
The statement on Gab's fork of Mastodon. Mastodon is completely so now they're Mastodon. I don't know if they're speaking as the software, if this is a software that all of a sudden can talk, or if it's a bunch of guys who developed it, but they say Mastodon. Mastodon is completely opposed to Gab's project and philosophy, which seeks to...
Wait. Where are you reading this from? It sounds like you were reading it from the Gab site.
I'm reading it from the joinmastodon.org.
Oh, you're talking... Okay, this is the Social Justice Warriors.
Yes.
Okay.
Couldn't you tell from my SJW voice?
Yeah, that would have been better.
Well, that's what I'm doing. I'll amp it up a bit. Mastodon is completely opposed to Gab's project and philosophy, which seeks to monetize and platform racist content while hiding behind the banner of free speech. And right off the bat, I knew what the problem was. These little fucks are pissed off that someone is actually willing to pay Gab money to use their server. And I've been getting hate toots all over the place, and it generally is the same thing. They're charging people money for a broken service. They're taking away features and charging people to put the features back in. And all I can say is, so? Who cares if they can get money to pay, if they can get people to pay money for their version of a server, which they could join noagendasocial.com and they could have more features and we wouldn't charge them anything. But if that's what they want to do, who cares? No, but they're veiling this, and I think this is an overall issue with the open source movement. The minute someone takes open source software and monetizes it, they get their panties in a bunch. Usually people create open source software to fight against an established system, such as an operating system, Linux. So what's the girl Kim who started the enterprise system, the enterprise company based on Linux? Maybe was it just
Red Hat?
Was it Red Hat? Yeah, Red Hat. That's what I'm saying. Red Hat. So she got so much hate. They're taking our work, and that's the deal.
I didn't know there was a woman that started Red Hat.
Yeah, it was Kim Polisi, I think.
No.
Yes.
All right, keep talking.
Well, maybe she became the CEO later. So right off the bat, I'll read you this first sentence again. Mastodon is without the voice. Mastodon is completely opposed to Gab's project and philosophy, which seeks to monetize and platform racist content while hiding behind the banner of free speech. Mastodon remains committed to standing up against hate speech. For example, our new server covenant means we only list servers on joinmastodon.org that are committed to active moderation against racism, sexism, and transphobia. The Mastodon community does not approve of their attempt to hijack our infrastructure and has already taken steps to isolate Gab and keep hate speech off the Fediverse.
Do they know what open source is?
Well, they are so, again, let's go down to the final paragraph. In addition to the isolation Gab can expect from the Fediverse, it is clear that their design choices offer users no incentive to choose their platform. By paywalling basic features that are freely available on Mastodon, Gab puts itself at a disadvantage compared to any Mastodon instance. Mastodon remains non-commercially structured, and all features are available to users freely from the start. They are so butthurt over the fact that these guys are getting donations. I think they're literally willing to take people from Gab just to get them on their full-featured, no-charge servers. Yeah, it's so transparent that is the essence of what these people are angry about. That they're making money doing it.
This is a stretch.
It's all. I'm reading it.
Well, I think it's rationalization at this point for them to bitch about that, because they're going to bitch about everything. But even if I'll ask you the rhetorical question: if there was zero money being made by Gab, do you think these people would put up with it?
No. So I take your point, and I think you're correct. It's rationalization of their unhinged behavior.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Thank you. I'll take that. Thank you. That's real-time analysis.
All right. Bob Young and Mark Ewing started Red Hat. Kim Pelasi's never had anything to do with it.
Where was Kim Pelasi?
She was at Sun, and then she became she's a West Coast girl, and this was an East Coast operation.
I thought Kim Pelasi ran a big open source software company.
Yeah, Spike Source.
Okay. Anyway, so for some reason, people who wanted a free and system that was not beholden to Silicon Valley have decided that they're going to be the heroes of the internet, and they're going to block and moderate against racism, sexism, and transphobia. And I'm thinking to myself, these people are the dumbest idiots in the world. People want the danger.
Those smart idiots that are out there.
People want danger. They love it. They want to have the danger of getting something nut. I mean, you look at our federated timeline. It's a mess. But it's the world. It's you should see what comes through from China and Japan and the manga culture. It's a mess. But you can block it. You can mute it. You can get rid of it. You don't have to look at it at all. But people love that danger, and they will gravitate towards this. They're going to run away from your little closed-off systems. It's so counterproductive to what otherwise is a great idea. And just to finalize my rant here, the idea of federation does not mean that everyone should have the right to be copied and propagated across all of these instances or servers so everybody sees your message. Quite the opposite. The beauty is you can block it off. So if you're not interested in what happens on noagendasocial.com or people who post there, then either mute it, block the whole server. That's fine. Live in your own little world. Whoever said it had to be all open. That's the whole point. Is like, no, you can connect who you want to. And if someone doesn't like the policy or what do they call this? The covenant of their instance, like a government. If you don't like the covenant, then for $5 a month, you can start your own and be a part of the Fediverse however you want to be a part of it. It's just it is an unbelievable. People need to study this as a. I mean, this is something that. What is the word I'm looking for? Who studies human history, human behavior?
Historian?
No, it's psychology.
Okay.
You're not helping.
Adam Curry, king of the Federation. Vote Adam Curry.
I don't need to be king of anything. But
you need to be king.
But this is what's going on here is much bigger, will be much bigger than Twitter and Facebook and all this other bull crap combined. This is where it's going. And the Federation, the genie's out of the bottle, and I think it's much healthier. So now you can have all the social justice warriors in their little corner blocking off everything else, and then no one has to deal with them. They can root around in their own little river. It's fine. It's like
that would actually be preferable.
Yes, exactly. It's exactly the way it should be. So, although
normal people over here,
I'm sorry,
SJWs over there.
Yes, normies. No. In fact, I got called
normies.
Normies. I got called a fucking normie yesterday.
You got called a normie?
A fucking normie, not just a normie. A fucking normie.
Why would somebody use the pejorative "fucking" to describe a normie?
Well, it was on his mind.
So is it different than just a regular normie?
I guess. And then he went on to say, don't you want black penis and all stuff like that. That's Mastodon. Please block our server. I don't want to be any part of that. If that's all you got to say, go away. Who gives a crap?
Well, I'm glad you're adamant about this. You may be onto something.
You should check. I know you have an account. You might want.
I go on it all the time.
And with that, I'd like to thank you for your courage and say in the morning to you, the man who put the C in. I don't know. I'm out of ideas. John C. Dvorak, ladies and gentlemen.
You have a list. Well, in the morning to you, Mr. Adam Curry. In the morning to all ships at sea, boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water, and all the cows and dames and knights out there.
Did you say cows?
Yeah, did I?
I think you said cows and dames out there.
Cows and Dames and Knights.
Yes, very good. Cows and Knights and Dames and Dames and Knights. Yes, in the morning to the trolls in the troll room. Let me see what we got here. It's been a slow week. Oh, we saw over 1,000. That's nice. It's good to see people there. That is noagendastream.com 24/7. We have shows running, live shows. You can comment on them. You can go and get your noagendasocial.com invite by going to noagendastream.com. And we had Darren O doing the pre-stream this morning, and there's always something fun at noagendastream.com.
Adam and John critique the show art.
That's right. We want to thank Mike Riley for the artwork for episode 1152. The title of that was Wir gehen. Very confusing title for most people. Probably the way we spelled it.
But if you read it out loud, you knew, and you spoke German or understood any German, you know exactly what it meant.
Or if you listened to the show, you'd probably know what it meant.
Yeah, the show is very clear. It's very gay.
Mike Riley gave us the artwork. Now, there were several choices. Once again, we clearly didn't think any of the Nike stuff was all that great. It was pretty, like really low-hanging fruit type stuff. But
it wasn't. It's too obvious.
The Mike Riley piece was nice. It was clearly an original piece. It was a 4th of July fife and drum trio with one of them. I guess that's you with the buck teeth saying "I got ants." At least that's. Yeah. Was there anything else?
Me.
Was there anything else we needed to discuss?
No, it was just it was a piece that I was looking for something had to have the flag, and some mentioned the 4th besides just fireworks. So the flag was like a prerequisite to me, and so I'm looking around, and that was and it was a cartoony thing, which was was lighthearted, and Riley can do that sort of thing constantly. I mean, he's just kind of that guy.
Yeah,
and so it was just a no-brainer actually to pick that piece.
Well, we may have issues today. We didn't even have a pre-show art. People on vacation.
Nobody's listening. Hello.
We're just talking into a void.
Hello, anybody there?
Avoid talking. There seems to be a lot of people on the stream. Those people probably didn't. And by the way, what a dud! The newsletter, a total dud.
Oh yeah, it was a total dud.
I mean, I'm never going to provide my personal pictures ever again.
And there's some good shots in there, too. And I went through the trouble of producing a big, giant photo with Photoshop to minimize the number of photo counts.
Yeah, so it wouldn't get stuck in spam.
Yeah, it's only one photo instead of 5 or 4, whatever it was. And it kind of worked, it seems, but nobody was there to pick it up because they're all floating around, living it up in this good economy. So what are you going to do?
I guess so. Well, if you're going to be away.
But I thought it was funny.
Oh, I I didn't realize, I sent you the picture of me dancing with my sisters, which was very funny. And then you commented on it, like, I'm not sure what Adam's sister Tiffany is doing, but it's not good. Now, Willow, of course, listens to the show and subscribes to the newsletter, and she immediately sent it to Tiffany.
Of course.
It's like, okie dokie. But you know what? There was no one even bothered photoshopping my air guitar. I mean, that thing just screams Photoshop. No, nothing. No traction, 0. So, all right, sorry. And that was also reflected in, the way the newsletter works is it's a reminder that you have your show is being produced once again. Another one will drop tomorrow, and people typically take that as their cue.
We will pick it up and run it.
Pick up. What do you mean?
Whatever was dropped.
What did you have for breakfast? Sorghum flakes?
No, actually, I had a Danish.
We'd like to thank a few people for today's show who did step up and support us.
We'd like to thank 3 people, at least at this level. We have another 10 people to thank afterwards. Let's start off with Sir John Overall Night Runner, $333.77 from Victoria, BC. So our top donor is a Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Adam, John, this donation for episode 1153, which is an angel number in numerology, from Sir John Overall Night Runner, coming to you from the lake by the caves on Vancouver Island in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. And by the way, that is a
beautiful part of the world.
Not only that, but Victoria, where he lives, is probably the prettiest city on the West Coast, no matter what anybody says about San Francisco, with or without the poop. Victoria is absolutely, it's just dynamite. It's a very, very, it's just dynamite. Anyway, I'm out camping with my boys, so I may not catch the show live. I really hope the read goes well, since half of the time I've donated. My notes do not come through properly for some reason, and I have to ask for a make good. This donation is on for my favorite blue cheese dressing recipe, which can be found on page 33 in my buddy's cookbook, Man-Freed in the Kitchen. Easy to prepare munchies. Available at sexyfoodinthekitchen.com.
I got to pick that one up. That sounds like a good one.
Yeah, sounds good. Related congratulations to you, Adam, on your nuptials to Tina the Keeper. Thanks to all the great reports from Gitmo East. A bit late for Canada Day and July 4th, but this day is so much more important. After all, it's my birthday. This donation includes some lucky sevens. Today is my double nickel birthday on 7/7. Please add me to the birthday list. A note to Adam, I am with you as I plan to be here another 40 to 45 years and laugh at them all from my rocking chair. Please, finally, please mention my podcast, WP Plugins A to Z, a weekly WordPress podcast. You can look that up on the Google or the Bing, WP Plugins A to Z, which is becoming an 8-year overnight success.
That's how podcasting works, my friend. Overnight, 8-year success, yes.
Yeah, it's all overnight. In the scheme of things, it's definitely overnight. On episode, think of the dinosaurs. On episode 415, as I move towards episode 420 in one short month, please play 69 dudes, 99 glitches, Go podcasting. Please hand out relationship podcasting and business karma for all.
Well, Sir John, overall night runner, thank you for stepping up and being here for us in our lowest of the year week. And I'll for sure I'll check out episode 420.
69 dudes. If you're having tech problems, I feel bad for your son. I got 99 problems, but a
You've got karma.
Sir Don Silver in Ewa Beach, Hawaii, $320. And he sent a check in with a note. It's a very short note. I've been neglecting my duties as a no-agenda listener.
Uh-oh.
But better late than never. Thank you for your lovely show. The good cheer and the news. NJNK, just your good vibes.
And thank
aloha.
You. Yes. Thank you for your aloha. We need an aloha. That's Hawaiian karma, isn't it?
Ferguson.
Ferguson?
No, I'm sorry. No. Why am I blanking on this?
I don't know. But notice I'm not making fun of you.
Well, you should. Chris Black, $233.33. Hello, gents. Chris Black here from Gitmo Nation region, Caribbean. CARICOM.
CARICOM is like Northcom. It's CARICOM, the Caribbean Command. It is. It's an acronym, a military acronym.
Oh. I appreciate the dedication and hard work. No, I'm thinking Fletcher.
CARICOM! Like that?
Well, forget Fletcher.
I have a new calling in life.
So Fletcher says, he wants to do help in the radio show.
Yes.
The radio plays. We're going to do kind of.
Let me guess.
So he sent me a tape. He does about 14 to 15 absolutely stunning
different voices,
offbeat voices.
And why does this not surprise me?
And they're all good. He also has a deep voice. He doesn't, not the boomer that I like, but it's deep. It's definitely a narrator's voice. But he does the hippie and he does a dipshit. He does a great dipshit. kind of a, just in between dipshit guy. Can't quite do it. Neither one of us did do it. And a whole bunch of deep throated guys and wacky sounds, and he sustains them. This to me is the hardest part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, keeping it going.
A friend of mine who does a lot of this sort of thing, he sent me a tape of stuff, and every so often when you listen to blah 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 blah, and then you hear his voice. Sustaining a completely different voice.
Good. That's hard. That's hard. It's very hard to do. I mean, I can do Freddy the Firewall, but that's about it.
But and you probably couldn't sustain it through I mean, I could. You know how many people have bitched about that voice?
You know how many people
it rubs people the wrong way.
A lot of people want a reprise, want a radio play of Freddy the Firewall. I've received notices about this. Yes.
Oh,
plug in your camera, kids.
Anyway, so Fletcher, I had no idea that he had the repertoire is absolutely phenomenal.
Good.
So, but he could do the Aloha in the Scream.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, I have a problem with something our donor writes continues to say.
Chris Black, you mean? Yes.
Yes, that's who it is. I have a problem with something being repeated on your show. Jamaican is not a race. Have we ever said that?
I don't think so.
It's a nationality. No. My entire family background is Jamaican, but I was born in the U.S. I'm the only one in my family who voted for Trump, and I can articulate my reasons for doing so. I recently went on an 8-hour road trip with my uncle who hates the president. It was an interesting trip, but I think it means Dems got confused when they run into blacks who support the racist, quote unquote. But ultimately, their justification is, I hate myself also.
Yep.
So about Mrs. Harris, her dad, Donald Harris, is Jamaican of European and African descent. Thus, the complex issue of his ancestors owned slaves. The Caribbean is full of blacks, quote unquote, who are descendants of slaves brought over from Africa. So technically, blacks from Jamaica can also be descendants of slaves.
Sure.
Not descendants of American slavery, though.
No.
Jamaica has black, white, Indian, and Chinese Jamaicans, which are all of various races. Even growing up in South Florida, the African-American blacks never referred to me as being black.
Exactly.
Even though I look just like them. What a mess. Classic divide and conquer.
Before you do the PS, I have a segment coming right up after this break, which will delve even deeper into that, because he doesn't really say anything. He has a beef, but he just says, hey, we can also be slaves. Yeah, sure. But it comes back to Kamala Harris. When you say in America, I'm black, that used to mean up until 2-3 years ago, pretty much you were an American descendant of slavery. You could be half black. You'd have a white mom. You have a Chinese mom. Anything you want. But if you were a black, you were descent. Am I misstating this, John? I mean, you've been around a little longer than I have.
This is something I don't really want to get into personally, and so I can't say you're misstating it, because I would personally think that you're not misstating it. But I think this is a can of worms.
Oh, good. Well, I'll have other people do that in some clips I have coming up.
Good. Anyway, onward. P.S. He says, I'm currently on my way to the U.S.-Mexico soccer match. Can I also get a divorce, Karma, please? Oh,
she
won't leave.
She won't leave.
She won't leave.
Damn.
You've got karma.
She won't leave. Oh,
sorry about that.
Sorry, Chris.
I hope that helps.
Anyway, Chris is our one and only associate executive producer for show 1153.
Yes. Well, thank you to these three producers. You receive the credits, which are just as valuable on any show day if you're an executive producer. In this case, you're executive producer of No Agenda Show 1153. And, of course, we have our associate executive producer, Chris Black. You can post these credits anywhere. People like to put them on their social media profiles. LinkedIn appears to work. And if anyone ever questions you about the validity of this, we will vouch for you. All you have to do is drop us a line. And please remember, we'll be here on Thursday for another riveting edition of the show, and you can support us at
Dvorak.org/NA.
Well, now that you have all the information on Jamaican slaves, stay tuned for more and propagate!
Our formula is this.
We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Aloha! Shut up, slave. I think that works. Still better if Fletcher does it, for sure.
Yeah, well, he's got the pipes.
So that was interesting. You said you don't want to discuss it, or do you feel uncomfortable discussing black and slavery?
Well, I'm not uncomfortable discussing anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's something of a can of worms that is not really what the show is about, and this racial.
I'm sorry, the 2020 elections and an important demographic is not what the show is about.
No, and that's not what I meant, and I think you know it. I don't think that trying to unravel the racial mess and its monikers and who calls what and reparations and all these other things. And yeah, it is part of the show insofar as candidates are going to be bringing this stuff up and we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is, somewhat something I'm not interested in talking about. I'm interested in it. I'm not interested. And you're doing a fine job by yourself.
Okay, good. Then let me do a little segment because Kamala Harris is arguably one of the two front runners at the moment. And it seems in many ways, from a racial standpoint, that we are at a 2007 type situation where Barack Obama is being called an African American, and he clearly was not African American. He's black, he's brown, whatever you want to call him, not African American. And let's just go back to the conversation that Don Lemon had with April Ryan, just to refresh your memory, so two old white guys aren't saying it, but Don Lemon is saying it, about Kamala Harris.
There's a lot to unpack here. Number one, what does black enough mean? Can someone give me a definition of what black enough is? I don't want to go down the road of the stereotype when people say we're black. Number one, she is a black woman. She's a mixed race woman. When you see her blackness, but she is also South Asian. Her mom is South Asian and her dad is Jamaican.
April, let me listen.
Yes.
More power to her. And I think it's great. That should be enough. Listen, it is enough that she's a black woman.
We are not a monolith.
No.
But they did the same.
No. I think you're not hearing what people are saying. The people who are saying is she black enough? That's bull. That's BS. But to want a distinction to say is she African American, or is she black, or is she whatever? There is nothing wrong with that. There is a difference between being African American and being black. Latino people are people of color, but they're not black. They're brown people.
She is a woman of color, but she is a black woman.
Okay, that's fine. I agree with that. But is she African American? No. But is she African American? There's a difference. There's nothing wrong with that. No one is trying to take anything away from her.
Let's go down into her lineage.
I think you're falling into the trap of that. All she had to do was say, "I am black, but I'm not African American." That's it.
Don, I'm not falling in a trap. I'm not falling in. Let me finish. Hold on. I'm not falling into a trap by that. When she goes down her lineage, many Africans landed in Jamaica and all these other Caribbean islands. So she could indeed
Jamaica's
be
not America.
African American mixed with others. But she is
Jamaica's not America.
But she is a black woman. She was
Jamaica
born
did not
here.
Come out of Jim Crow.
Okay, well let's go into
saying.
Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was born in Canada.
I'm not talking about Ted Cruz. This is not about Ted Cruz. You're changing the subject.
But you know what? We cannot. It was hypocrisy. I'm not changing the subject.
Yes, you are.
She's a black woman. I don't know what you want.
Cruz.
Okay, I think we get the idea here. You hear two black people arguing about what is black, which is the conversation you and I, you're right, we're not qualified to have that. But I think as a lineage and as race and nationalities is very clear what's what. The problem is that there is I think a large contingent of who would call themselves ADOS, American descendants of slavery, who are tired of seeing Democratic candidates saying, I'm black, I'm going to do something for the black people, meaning people who descended from Jim Crow type laws and situations. In my lifetime, I was barely born, but it was just about ended 1 year after I was born. And, here we are. Things are much better. But if you're going to ask people to vote for you and you're promising things for their community, you got to be kind of clear what you're talking about. And that's where the anger stems from, as blacks, African Americans feel they got ripped off by Obama and did not do any better, even though he was supposed to be the first black American president. Most will still say African American president, although technically not true. So when Kamala Harris came on the scene, the ADOS movement came into action and said, that's fine, but let's not pretend that she's African American. And that immediately became was marginalized down to these people are Russian bots.
Yeah. Yes.
Now here's
you have to know the one thing that's certain. You bring it up, Kamala Harris, to people that don't listen to the show. Some of these her names come to what? Why would they support her? Why would the blacks support her? She's a cop.
Well, there's that angle.
She's a cop. She's a mean-spirited district attorney that did nothing for any black people that ever went, she was confronted with. But she's a cop, and so that's enough. She's not to be supported. And then this other stuff, I think, just derived from that.
Well, it's getting pretty heated. Roland Martin on, I think this is maybe CNN or MSNBC, he explains people who have this opinion that Kamala Harris is doing the same thing Barack Obama did, is pandering to ADOS and saying, no way, I'm going to take care of you, but really was not sincere. He is dividing this.
Don Jr.'s spokesman told the New York Times, quote, that Dawn's tweet was simply asking him if it was true that Kamala Harris was half Indian, because it's not something he'd ever heard before. And then once he saw folks were misconstruing the intent, he quickly deleted it. What do you make of this?
Donald Trump Jr. is Fredo, and he clearly can't read a bio. All he has to do is go read the bio of Senator Kamala Harris, then you'll understand her background. And so he's probably the dumbest of all the Trump children. But here's the real issue here. The attacks on Senator Kamala Harris's blackness really started the moment she announced. And where it's really coming from, this is black self-hate cloaked in black self-love. There are people out there who are saying that because she is not a descendant of slaves, she really can't speak to the black experience. They dismiss the fact that she went to an HBCU. They dismiss her actual background. And that's what the real issue here. There are black people out there who are angry that who say Obama didn't do enough for African Americans. And what they're not doing is demanding really policy questions. They're questioning her blackness. You even have some fools out there who are black, especially a lot of black men, who are criticizing her because her husband is white. And so I understand that folks are talking about Donald Trump Jr. retweeting this, but really you've got some asinine black folks out there who are the ones who are questioning her blackness, and they are shameful and they are despicable, and then they should be called out at every turn.
That's pretty loaded, what the guy is doing there.
He's a Democrat.
When this is what it's all about. There is a contingent. They call themselves ADOS, and they're saying we're not going to vote for any Democratic candidate anymore, even though they traditionally do in the 85-95% range. Until we see a true black agenda for black Americans, African Americans. So this honor has still been bestowed upon Kamala Harris, and she showed up over the weekend at the Essence Power stage for Essence magazine, I presume. A real black American, African American magazine traditionally. She was introduced by none other than the Rev Al Sharpton, and she comes out to Tupac.
Let us welcome Senator Kamala Harris.
Now count the time she says good morning.
California. Oh my goodness.
Good morning.
California.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Oh my. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, my heart is full.
Good morning, my beautiful sisters.
Good morning.
Oh, jeez.
Good morning. Now,
sounds like she's totally stoned.
I got to tell you, though, she has something so endearing about her. The way, I can't explain it. There's some smile. It's her smile. It's her storytelling. But then she goes straight into this story about her background because she realizes there's a lot of controversy. We've got to talk about my background. Now, what we know, what we've researched, before any of this really came up on the show, like, okay, her mom's from India, her dad's from Jamaica, she was born here, she grew up in Canada most of her life.
And from the age of 12.
Yeah, but she did get bussed around. And I think she's younger than I am, isn't she? What is she? She's 52?
She was born in 1964.
Okay, so she's my age. So
you were born in 64?
Yes. So I'm not so sure if what she says here is really truthful.
So, about my background, I am a daughter of the Civil Rights Movement.
What?
I grew up in a family and in a community of adults.
Now, if someone says, I am a daughter of the Civil Rights Movement, and you do not have a family history of Jim Crow, I think that people will find that insulting. But maybe
Wait, she said something even weirder. Play that again.
Yeah.
So, about my background, I am a daughter of the Civil Rights Movement. I grew up in a family and in a community of adults who spent full time marching and shouting about this thing called justice.
So she kind of makes it sound like...
That doesn't sound right. Why would... No.
So and she's doing this, mind you, at the Essence Power Stage 25.
My sister Maya and I, we were raised by a mother who was all of 5 feet tall. But if you ever met her, you would have thought she was 7 feet tall. She taught us, don't let anyone tell you who you are. You tell them who you are.
Well, she's following mom's advice, that's for sure. She's a daughter of the Civil Rights Movement. Can you really compare that to a daughter of someone who was actually in America during Jim Crow and the Civil Rights Movement? I think that's just horseshit on her case. So now she goes into something that I heard the other day at the Whole Foods checkout. Someone asked me...
Wait a minute. Was her mom... Her mom is Indian.
Yes.
And her mom's the one that ended up with her when she was 12. And how many Indians were that involved in the Civil Rights Movement?
Oh, she said that they were screaming and yelling and protesting. It's a lie, John. This is why people are angry. This is why people on CNN have to tell other people of the same color, shut up. I'm just reporting. So now she does something which is a phrase that I keep hearing over and over again. People are so deranged about Trump, they can't even say Trump. They can't even say, listen, this is what it is.
And look, we all know there is a lot that is wrong with the current occupant of the White House.
I hear this everywhere. At the Whole Foods checkout. Well, the current occupant at the White House, I mean the guy called the president, they can't say it. Have you not noticed this? Your lib Joes?
Now that you mention, I haven't noticed it. But now that you mention it, I think it does crop up a lot.
And the term is the current occupant of the White House.
And look,
it's demeaning. It's demeaning. It's demeaning.
It's like this, it's like a squatter. It's like some dude just walked in and
it's an insult to the people who voted for Trump.
As an aside, didn't Melania look dynamite on July 4th?
I told you this already in the show. I have not seen one frame of anything having to do with that event, so I don't know, maybe.
Right.
We all know there is a lot that is wrong with the current occupant of the White House. He says he wants to make America great again. Well, what exactly does again mean? Back before the Civil Rights Act? Back before the Voting Rights Act? Back before Roe v. Wade?
She's doing that voice.
Back before the Fair Housing Act? Well, Essence, we're not going back. We're not going back.
So
that's not her natural voice to start talking like that kind of a southern displaced black.
No, but it was also
she's California. She's a California. If she's black, she can't get any further than being a California black, and they have a very distinctive way of speaking. And they don't talk a lot. They don't talk. They don't have an accent that she's portraying the way Hillary does. I can't even do it.
Yeah, she's a lot of that Hillary stuff in her, for sure. Big student of Hillary. But just so you know, America was never great because it was all racist, bunch of a-holes, racists, misogynists, just horrible, horrible people. Thank you, Kamala. And now she gets into the census, kind of, because there's a second census that is being run that you and I, for obvious reasons, were not aware of.
And I'd ask that we take a look at, and I urge everyone to read, the Black Census Project that has been headed by Alicia Garza, and look at that as our guide. So it's the largest survey of black people in America since Reconstruction, and it demands action, recognizing the many facets of black life that must be addressed. And in my opinion, it is a guide to right what is wrong in America. So you know how sometimes people will say, and they say it certainly to me often, because I was, of course, the first black woman to be elected DA of San Francisco. I was the first black person to be elected Attorney General of California, only the second black woman to be elected to the United States Senate.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the third, because Elizabeth Warren was also senator.
In the history of our country.
Okay, so when you hear this, what do you believe this black census is, and who do you think it's about?
I have no idea. I never heard of it. I mean,
the way she's just said that,
it sounds like it's some way of counting up the blacks and getting their grievances and fixing the problems.
Yes, exactly. Unfortunately, she told us who was running it. Alicia Garza. The name may not ring many bells with you.
It does. It sounds familiar.
Black Lives Matter.
Oh, okay, right.
She started Black Lives Matter with, she's a Soros sister.
Yeah, Soros sister, exactly.
She got the money from Soros. She started Black Lives Matters, and I have two quick clips of her about this black census.
Any questions about sexuality have been removed from the census.
But she's talking, I'm sorry. So she's giving a rationale here about the black census because we're missing all these things in the Donald Trump 2020 census.
Hold on a second. So wait a minute. So what you're telling me is that this white, or the census, which counts everybody, which according to Trump is going to dig into everything we possibly could know, doesn't have enough questions digging into everything.
And yes, and she is running the Black Census Project. But is it only about the black people that Kamala Harris was talking about, or that the impression she gave you and I? Like, okay, it's about black people in America, their grievances, getting screwed, and how she's going to fix all this. Which kind of sounds like a black agenda, or not reparations money wise, but doing something for her community, even though it's not really her community. And so here's Alicia Garza, her sister, as she just said, and she's first going to bitch about the traditional census, giving a rationale for her census. But there's some interesting gotchas in here.
Any questions about sexuality have been removed from the census. Mm-hmm. And there are already ways in which some of the questions on the 2020 census are actually designed to discourage the communities who need the census the most from participating.
Wow.
We've heard rumors, and rumors have been confirmed actually, about questions about immigration status and concerns about whether or not this administration will take those responses and turn them over to Homeland Security.
Right.
And so what you can be sure of with our census project is that, one, we're not collecting any personal information. And so and we're doing that because we think it's important to protect people's privacy. But it's also extremely important that people understand that what the 2020 census does is it asks you about how many people are in your house. Right. It asks you where you live, for the purposes of apportioning resources. Our census is asking you about your experiences. It's asking you to sound off on what you want to see for your future.
Right.
And the way that you can hold us accountable to that is by being engaged with our project.
Okay, so it sounds kind of good, although I don't know about the sexuality part, but all right, it sounds like you want to do something for Black Americans with a census, and I don't know, hopefully that information, that data will be helpful. But is it really only for American descendants of slavery or just blacks?
So we've taken a lot of steps to make sure that people don't get left behind. And we're ready to take additional steps in any places that we've missed. So, for example, we've talked about really wanting to make sure that Black people who are immigrants get to participate in this survey. And
okay, here we go.
In this process. And that's why we've translated the survey into 8 languages that are commonly spoken by a number of Black communities that live here in the United States, so that nobody is left behind.
Wow.
We hear that, folks who are incarcerated often get left out of these kinds of projects, which is why we're partnering with organizations that work with people who are incarcerated in jails, in prisons, to make sure that we get the census inside the walls, so that we can really hear from people who are being directly impacted by the criminal system what it is that you dream of for your future.
So, as it turns out, the Black census is for immigrants, for LGBTQ. It is not for just Black Americans in the traditional sense of the word or the way it is implied by Kamala Harris. I don't expect a lot of white people to catch this, but I think a lot of Black people are also getting snookered by this. And here's the kicker. This Black census is she does this from her organization, the Black Futures Lab. And here's a little trick for people who want to find out who's behind something. Always click on the donate button. You always want to click on the donate button to find out where your money's going. Black Futures Lab is fiscally sponsored by the Chinese Progressive Association. And which is a 501c3 tax-exempt organization. I looked them up on GuideStar. They got about $3 million. There's no information on what they're really about. So this is some front, and why this is why the Black census is being sponsored by the Chinese Progressive Association is a mystery.
Well, I don't know that operation is a Soros front.
I think it might be.
Well, that Soros, no. I'll tell you why I don't think so. Soros has so many good fronts that why would he confuse matters by putting a Chinese anything in front of this operation? It doesn't make sense.
Well, we can look at...
He'd run it through one of his other operations.
We can look
that sound a little more liberal.
Well, founded in 1972, the Chinese Progressive Association educates, organizes, and empowers the low-income and working-class immigrant Chinese community, i.e. blacks, in San Francisco to build Yes, John. Yes, that's what's going on here. Chinese immigrants are now black. And don't you forget it. And and of all the things that worries me, it's the Chinese coming in. I have nothing against Chinese. Well, I do. Chinese people seem to be ruder than most, but they're just different cultures, so I get it. But do we really want the Chinese taking over everything?
Well, I find this to just be peculiar.
Yeah. It's...
Well, of course, in the interview that you have, this woman asked about that, and did she find out what did Alicia say? How she answered that question?
I'll tell you what she said. She said, "Wow, wow, wow, wow." She said, "Wow, this just wow." Let me see if I click on the donate of the Chinese Progressive Association. Let's see if we get any information here. No, it's all the same. But it's just why are they sponsoring this? Very, very odd. Anyway, so I guess we just take it at face value. Kamala Harris is black. She's all for blacks, and Chinese are black. That's the new black. Chinese is the new black.
I'm sure the Chinese will appreciate that.
Yeah. I got nothing against Chinese, except when on vacation, they seem to be rude.
Yeah, you've made that point. And if you go to China, they're rude there too.
Well, they can be,
but they're
rude.
not rude to you. They're actually less rude to you than they are to fellow Chinese.
Well, I've not been to China, so I can't speak on that.
Well,
it's
get bumped into a lot.
But it's just a different culture. They come from a real communist background, and they think every space is for everybody, and I'm going to stand in that space where you're standing.
Must be shared.
Exactly.
Well, this is distressing. But you can keep up on it if you want to. I mean, it seems to me to be Kamala Harris is not going to be the nominee. I'll just tell you that right now.
Okay. What does your crystal ball say, Cosmic Weenie?
Probably Joe Biden.
Do you really think so?
Well,
you're still believing Joe Biden?
Hillary finally gets a clue and jumps in, like I've been saying.
No,
it's a total mess. And I still say Kamala would be the vice president.
Joe Biden's vice presidential pick?
That thing that was mentioned in that NBC clip that we had earlier, where they're talking about everything but the topic. But Biden says, I was kind of surprised where this criticism of me came from, Kamala, because she's like a friend of mine. She knows Bo, and then he wanders off and goes, and shakes his head and goes, he just says something stupid, and he was really, I think, outraged by a personal attack at that level on this national stage by a supposed friend. Because it's not the way you operate. You don't do that. You would have, if you had this complaint, why don't you bring it up sometime, personally? I mean, this was considered a faux pas. And she's going to suffer for it, I can assure you. And probably suffer for it in the next debate. But she has zero chance of becoming the nominee.
Oh, man.
Here first. And I'm not bad at this.
Well, I have a good track record.
You have a good track record of picking popes
and the president.
Well, it wasn't.
Don't make me play the clip again.
That's not the same as picking the candidates.
Okay, I think Kamala. So far, right now, for me, Kamala Harris is the front runner. Joe Biden is a washed-up loser at this point, and he's coming unhinged, and people are seeing it. I don't see that support for him.
That's why somebody needs to come to the rescue. Somebody needs to come to the rescue.
Oh, brother. Someone pointed out a movie to me that is on Netflix that actually came out 10 months before the Mueller report. And as I was watching the trailer for this, it's called Active Measures. I don't think we heard about this. I don't think we talked about it. It went straight to Netflix, as far as I know.
I'm going to go look at it next.
I play the trailer. When you listen to this trailer, and you've got to clear your mind. You've got to put yourself into Rob Reiner's shoes. I know they're kind of stinky, but just lay back, because I'm pretty good at doing this. I lay back and okay, let me just for a moment think that Trump is not the president. He's the current occupant of the White House. And all of these guys were all in cahoots. There was all this collusion. The Mueller report proved it. I saw my favorite Hollywood actors telling me to read the report. I read the report, and it confirmed everything I was afraid of. And then you see this trailer.
President Trump, just now, President Putin denied having anything to do with the election interference in 2016. Every U.S. intelligence agency has concluded that Russia did. My first question for you, sir, is who do you believe?
Putin has worked to undermine democracies across the globe.
He made his way up through the KGB.
He learned how to maneuver politically.
The Russian mafia is an adjunct of the Russian government.
And they've helped maintain Mr. Putin's power.
To the point where Putin may well be the wealthiest man on the face of the planet.
How does Russia launder money into America?
Everything I know that's interesting, I can't tell you.
The Russians have a particular type of mark. They go after somebody who has business resources, shady morals, and political connections or aspirations. I've just described Donald Trump.
Putin realizes that if we're divided as a nation, we cannot protect ourselves from threats within and without.
And what you have is probably the biggest intelligence breach in the history of the world.
The crown jewel for any intelligence agency is to recruit an asset inside your adversary's intelligence agency.
They seem to have premonitions of things that were going to happen that in fact did happen.
The question is, who helped guide the decisions that the Russians were making?
Trump Tower was the money laundering paradise.
Anybody who was anybody in Russian organized crime bought a condo unit at Trump Tower.
We have a serious intelligence operation in the home of the man who becomes president of the United States. I think this is the tip of the iceberg.
What's at stake is truth and the cause of liberty at the most profound level possible.
Active Measures, now on Netflix.
I want to play the clip of, this is Noam Chomsky discussing, and he backs this up with a lot of logic because he's a logician, if nothing else. And he is a darling of the left. What he says is important to the progressives, and they don't like hearing this from him.
As far as Trump collusion with the Russians, that was never going to amount to anything more than minor corruption. Maybe building a Trump hotel in Red Square or something like that, but nothing of any significance. The Democrats invested everything in this issue. Well, turned out there was nothing much there. They gave Trump a huge gift. In fact, they may have handed him the next election. That's just that's a matter of being so unwilling to deal with fundamental issues that they're looking for something on the side that'll somehow give political success.
And where did he say this?
He said it at in New York at a big confab.
Wow! Did they boo him?
One of his speeches.
Did they boo him?
No, they.
A collective
he went on before he prefaced this by discussing the idea of the Russian interfering in our elections. He says the real, and this is from his perspective again, he says the real problem, he says, how can the Russians even come close to competing with special interests and the huge amount of campaign funding that goes on in the billions and billions of dollars? The Russians don't have those sorts of resources. They can't do much more than, nothing, which is what he claims. He says the real problem is with, these other things what campaign finance reform would solve. Of course, then the logic of all this says to me that campaign finance reform would allow the Russians to actually be competitive. But that, of course, is another moment of logic that eludes everybody.
What do you mean? The campaign finance reform would allow the Russians to be competitive because
right now the Russians, in terms of screwing with our elections, as opposed to Hungary or any place else, is that our elections are so fraught with tons of money coming from special interests and PACs and everybody in between that there's no way they can do anything because we already have the thing sewn up, and research shows that the more money you get, the better chance you have of winning, and all the rest of it. The Russians aren't throwing money at it. What, $100,000 to Facebook? That's going to do what? Nothing. And so the point is that campaign finance reform, which would draw this money out of the system, would allow the Russians to actually be competitive and allow the Russians to actually screw up the elections.
Right.
Ironically. But, of course, we already know that campaign finance reform will never go anywhere because all that money is picked up by the media. They're the ones that are the beneficiaries, and the media would never allow it to happen because it's really part of their bottom line.
$10 billion in the 2020 election is projected to be spent on advertising.
And there you have it.
Most of that online.
Well, that's the weird part.
Well, when I say most, I say 60%. So that's the majority. The majority of it. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, you can believe that everyone's all just licking their chops, waiting for the dollars to come flowing in.
All right. Anything else?
Oh, after you, sir.
Well, I got a couple of things that are a little more kind of normalized. I do have I got a couple of ISOs I want to go over. Let's go over this. This one I picked up from a clip I never made. And this is a clip of about the Iranians. This is from the CBC. I just like this guy saying this.
Nothing different.
Nothing different. He sounded like Kissinger.
Nothing different. I have that one. I also have one from an Ebola report, which I wouldn't mind playing.
Oh, that's always good.
The CBC is covering Ebola. We're not.
So it's scary to think about what happens if we run out of it.
If we what? If we want to.
So it's scary to think about what happens if we run out of it.
Run out of what? Don't tell me they've got some kind of vaccine that's working all of a sudden.
Play Ebola 1, CBC.
Well, we can't just do that. We've got to do it properly.
Ebola's back in town. Ebola's back in town. Ebola's back in town.
The second largest Ebola outbreak in history is spreading in Congo, and it's a double tragedy since it's happening in an active war zone. That makes containment and treatment a huge challenge. But tonight, CBC News has learned that help is coming soon. A much-needed vaccine, co-created in Canada, is getting a boost in production. Katie Nicholson explains.
In this vial, a precious commodity, the Ebola vaccine, partially developed in Canada. And for those in the outbreak zone, every last drop counts. This region of Congo has buried more than 1,600 people since last year. Containing the outbreak has used up much of the world's 300,000 dose stockpile of the vaccine.
After 10 months in this outbreak, 300,000 doses is not enough anymore.
Gary Kobinger helped develop this vaccine and has been watching from afar. It's 97.5% effective against the deadly virus, but he fears there just isn't enough to quell the outbreak.
You will need to reach at least 1 million, if not 2 million, because if you start offering this vaccine to the population, you need to make sure that you have enough to cover 100% of people if 100% of the people ask for it.
But right now, 100% of the people aren't getting the shot. That's because it's being delivered primarily through a method known as ring vaccination. Ring vaccination works like this. Everyone in direct contact with the infected patient is immunized. Family, friends, caregivers, or others who've been in close proximity to the person. Then everyone who has had direct contact with those people is immunized.
And so with every new case, you have another ring, you have more people to vaccinate. And so it's clear that we need to have more vaccine. And those 300,000 doses are being used very quickly.
Trish Newport is with Doctors Without Borders. She's seen the impact the vaccine has had firsthand.
It's such a great, huge tool, and I can't imagine the outbreak if we didn't have it.
Well, this sounds like a repeat of 2014. I'm hearing a lot of the same things. Ring vaccinations.
Well, but I want you to re-listen to what she said. There's just something funny about what she said at the end. The vaccine is a tool, and we wouldn't have Ebola without it.
And so it's clear that we need to have more vaccine. And those 300,000 doses are being used very quickly.
Trish Newport is with Doctors Without Borders. She's seen the impact the vaccine has had firsthand.
It's such a great, huge tool, and I can't imagine the outbreak if we didn't have it.
I can't imagine the outbreak if we didn't have it. Well, I'm sorry. I just thought that was very funny. It sounds as though the vaccine is creating the outbreak.
Well, okay. That's one Well, here's a clip from 2014. Unless you want to play your second clip first.
Well, let's play the second clip and get this out of the way. Now, this woman who has got the most annoying voice, up-talker, looks like a dingbat, but I just want to get rid of this because this outbreak is because of I think it's because maybe Canada has something to do with this vaccine we don't. Yes. I'm not sure, but this whole thing is nothing like 2014 insofar as the panic created in the United States. You didn't even know that you said yourself about the vaccine or anything else because we're not covering because for some political or financial or who knows what reason, it's not important anymore. We don't have people coming back and being tracked by the police. Oh, my God, put them in isolation, put them in isolation. Oh, there's a breakout of Ebola in Dallas. I just find the whole thing to be very strange. And when I'm watching this report, I was just completely befuddled by it. But you can play the second half.
And I can't imagine the outbreak if we didn't have it. So it's scary to think about what happens if we run out of it.
And that's possible. Roughly half has been used in the last year. Problematic because every batch of the vaccine takes a year to make. Late this afternoon, Merck, the pharmaceutical company that makes the vaccine, confirmed to CBC News it is nearly tripling its Ebola vaccine stockpile, 850,000 doses within 18 months. Not the 1 to 2 million doses Kobinger would like to see, but for those on the ground, welcome ammunition just the same.
So a couple things. The reason why we're not covering it is in 2014, for some reason, we were sending the military over there. And that has not happened now. And so for whatever reason it is, it's not important to send military, so it's not important to cover. I don't think it was important to cover back then, but there was nothing else going on in 2014. We needed a news cycle. It was great to watch. Remember the first Ebola victim flown to Dallas, and then he hopped out of the back of the ambulance like, okay, I'll just walk inside. Everyone was expecting hazmat suits, and it was very benign. But we played a number of different clips, and I think the one that is interesting in this case is who owns this vaccine, which comes right back to the reason why it is being covered in Canada.
We've been asking the Public Health Agency of Canada for months what it got from the two companies that it sold the commercial licensing rights to for the experimental vaccine and the experimental drug ZMapp. We wanted to know if Canada still has any voice in the development and dissemination of the treatments. We got back emails saying the contract is confidential, that Canada still owns the patent and the intellectual property.
So I think if you own it, you cover it.
But that's now being questioned by scientists around the world who are waiting to do clinical trials on the vaccine. This Berlin-based journalist wrote the article.
The scientists I talked to are unhappy. They feel it could have gone faster. Who is in control of this process?
Everyone figured this outbreak would be long over before a vaccine could be developed. But with the number of Ebola cases doubling every 3 weeks and scientists around the world saying it's out of control, the need for a vaccine is growing. Meanwhile, up to 1,000 doses are in cold storage here at the National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg.
I do wonder whether it isn't possible to somehow cut through all that red tape and try to help get this vaccine on the road really as fast as possible.
They report that African trials of this Canadian vaccine have in fact been delayed, not because of logistical problems, but over an intellectual property dispute.
There you go.
The company that owns the commercial license for the drug is said to be dragging its feet. With thousands of lives at risk, can the Minister of Health explain what Canada is doing?
The only answer Ottawa's given so far is that all of this is in the hands of the World Health Organization.
And so we've missed something. Somewhere there's a piece missing as to something got solved with the intellectual property, the ownership structure, and then all of a sudden it needs to be rolled out because now it's being paid for.
Well, a couple of things come to mind with this story that's not being played at all in the United States, even though the way they did it before is it was always about the Ebola. It's a very dangerous thing to get. It could double every month, every week, every day. All this stuff is just not even covered at all, which is stunning to me, the way the media acts about these things. They're obviously being pushed around by public relations people that tell them what to do, and they haven't been told to do this story.
Yeah, because
how much is this vaccine? Here's one question they don't answer, and I have not seen an answer.
Mm-hmm.
What does the vaccine cost per dose? It's got to be expensive because, as they mentioned in the other report, it takes 1 year to make a dose.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple things. Well, that adds another question. Why does it take so long to make a dose? A. B. What does it cost per dose? And last, who's paying for these vaccinations? Because you know that the people in the affected area aren't.
Right.
They don't have any money.
No, it's government money from somewhere.
Yeah, but how much?
I know it's as far as I'm concerned, Canada are the fools.
How do you say that? Maybe they're getting tons of cash. It's Merck that's producing the product.
Yeah,
Canada just gets a licensing fee.
But is Merck
How's Canada?
Is Merck the owner? Are they the intellectual property?
Merck is the people making the vaccine.
Yeah, but do they? Oh, that's not the same question. Do they own it? Do they?
They licensed it. Obviously, the licensees are that one guy, and somebody else who's never mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
There just seems to be a lot of money involved here.
Well,
there has to be.
The odd thing is they tested this all in West Africa. Not in the
like you said, from 2014 to today.
Yeah.
5 years later, there's missing information.
Yes.
Man.
It took me a second to figure out what you were. That's right, man. There's new information. New shit has come to light. Well, I'm glad you caught that. I'm going to delve into it because I do like this Ebola story. And, you know, the only thing I can really think is they're actually bringing Ebola back by injecting it into people. What else could it be? Maybe they're hoping.
What that woman implied in that funny quote.
And they're hoping for an outbreak. I don't know. Maybe some of our. Sorry?
I want to know what it costs per dose and who's paying for it. It's not that hard of a question. If you're a journalist, to be the first thing I'd ask.
Or Scandinavian No Agenda producers, you're up.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh yeah, that'd be fab. Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
And we do have a few people to thank for show 1153, starting with Sean McCall, $133.33. He says, ahoy, captains of the deconstructed seas. The show has been fantastic lately. The Kaepernick discussion was so good, I went back and listened to it a few times. I think Adam is on to something with the extortion. Or maybe just on something. Very well done.
Yes.
Daniel Tomish.
You can't do that without saying he requests baby-making karma in the past, and he will do so again. Apparently, it works. So we'll do that for you at the end of the segment.
Do that for you at the end of baby-making. Daniel Tomash, $103.01. He says, having submitted at least one popular song mix some time ago and being the humble admin for noagendameetups.com, I have never taken the opportunity to be de-douched.
No, let's do that right now.
You've been de-douched.
And thank you for that tremendous resource, Daniel. It's very important. I have a couple of reports, meetup reports coming up in a moment. So, I thank you for your donation.
Jeffrey,
wait. I'm sorry. He needs some general awesome life karma for himself and his smoking hot wife, Amanda, who also listens to the show. So, yes, coming up.
Jeffrey Alicia in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, $101.01. Got a birthday coming up. Richard Hillenbrand, $77.19. Sir Perfluous of the Octoroon, or the Octoroon. He's an Octoroon. He says, please help. A couple of fellers want to hold a Virginia Beach meetup. But my immediate thought is, how can you have a Virginia Beach meetup without an Archduke Nussbaum?
Yes.
And I forwarded your message to the Archduke.
Yes, this has been taken care of.
Stephen McConnell, 74. Douglas Murray, 74. These are the end of the $74 donations. Celebrating the 4th of July. Eric Bird, 74. Adam Conklin in Springfield, Massachusetts, nuts, 74. David Ritchie, Sir Dwight the Knight in Burlington, Ontario. Oh, by the way, that was David Ritchie was the last of the 74s. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No 71s, of course, with the Canadians. Sir Dwight the Knight, the 6789 from Burlington, Ontario. Baron Mark Tanner, 6789 from Whittier, California. Exact same amount. He comes in with twice a month. Black Knight, Sir Mark Magpio, 5652. David Dietrich, 5510, double nickels on the dime. Charles Quinn in Aurora, Colorado, 5280.
The Mile High donation.
Sorry?
That's the Mile High donation.
We forgot. We used to use that as a major donation. I forgot all about it.
Yeah. And now 2 in a row.
Yeah, and then we get, for some unknown reason, Michael Gates comes
Well, wait a minute. Maybe Charles and Michael had a Mile High experience together.
Well, one of them's in I see. One of them's in Colorado, so they're a mile high anyway.
Okay. All right.
Sir Luke, the Viscount of London and in the southeast, 5150. in London, UK. Edward Mazurek in Memphis, Tennessee is $50 donors.
You're smacking your lips a lot. I just want to mention that. It's a lot today.
What?
You're smacking your lips a lot. Yes.
Thank you. Edward Mazurek and Memphis. These are all $50 donors, name and location. Should call me on that earlier, by the way. Heather Rodriguez in Stockton, California. Jonathan Meyer in Xenia, Ohio. Ryan Smith in Raleigh, North Carolina. These are all $50 donors. Andrew Martin in Sydney, New South Wales. Anonymous in Arnhem, Netherlands. Arnhem. And last but not least, there's two left. Frank Molinari in Bulverde, Texas, and Sir Brett Farrell in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And that's all we got for today. Not a lot, less than 30 total, which is really piss poor to say the least. But I want to thank all these folks for helping us out on show 1153. Everybody else is apparently on vacation.
Yes, and thank you everybody who came in under $50. Typically, you're on one of our subscription programs. That's a great way for us to keep the show going throughout these summer months, the doldrums. And I'm just going to presume, I forget every year, I guess, that it really goes down in these months, probably through July and August. But if you have some kind of sustaining subscription, it really does help us, because today was particularly bad, and it's demotivating, honestly. I love that people say that they think the shows have been fantastic, but people just not showing up. So I don't know. Is it the same way every year? Because seems worse.
I've always noticed that July 4th usually gets a pretty good group, and then the day after, the next donation segment after July 4th is always.
Oh, it's always bad,
especially if it's on a holiday weekend. Most people are
right.
They're out doing something. They're not just
right.
They're not working like we do on these holidays.
Well, we have to. We have to.
We don't have to.
I do. I don't know about I don't know about you, but I'm working for the money here. Yes, we have to. Absolutely.
We could run reruns and probably do as well. That's the joke of it. We could do as well on a day like this, looking how the donations were, if we ran, an interview or the best of or a comedy show or something, to be honest about it. But it should pick up a little bit after, I think.
Okay, but just as an aside, it's a holiday for the United States of America. The rest of the world is not on vacation.
No, it's true, but 80% of our listeners are in the U.S.
Well, that's a problem too. 80%?
Yeah, pretty much.
And where's number two?
Canada's number two, and then
it's a toss-up between Australia and the Netherlands, probably.
Yeah, pretty much something like that. So the Netherlands is 3.
So first let me do some karmas, because there were a ton of karmas that were requested.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
I'll do the birthdays right here because it's pretty short anyway. So let's roll those out. Everybody, birthday. Yes, it is the 7th of July, 2019. 2 birthdays today. Sir John Overall celebrates, and Jeffrey Alicia celebrates on the 9th of July. And even though it's just 2 of you, we are very happy for you. Happy birthday from everybody here at the best podcast in the universe. Meetups. Report. We had the Lisbon meetup, which it kind of went as expected. This was Dame Sheila, the Lady of Lisboa, who organized this. In the morning, Adam and John, quick update on the meetup. It was called at very short notice, so to be honest, I wasn't actually expecting anyone to show up. But I'm leaving Lisbon tomorrow for the next 2 months, and I wanted to try and harness the energy of your recent visit to access the network. And it worked. I got there at 6 p.m. sharp, and within 10 minutes, had the phone handed to me twice by the barman. Both Jeff and Zhao called to let me know they would not be able to come. How gallant. We are all now in contact, and I'm going to arrange another meetup when I get back in September. Turns out Zhao works just around the corner from where I live, and Jeff is in the same town where my father-in-law has a house. Thanks for all you and John do. Even though we haven't met somehow, I know we're all going to get along. Best Dame Sheila, the Lady of Lisboa, who apparently did the meetup all by herself, and she wanted a goat karma for that, and she deserves it. Thank you very much, lady.
You've got karma.
Of Lisboa. Maybe she had a nice chat with the bar guy. Now, the Netherlands, which was held...
Let's hope.
Yes. The Netherlands Gitmo Lowlands Utrecht meetup was very successful. And I got a note from Sir Hendrik. In the morning, Adam John, now that I finally have the pictures of your flailing dance routine, I congratulate you on your marriage. Tina sure looks like a keeper. From the stories, you two are a good match. Best wishes to both of you. Yesterday evening was the second meetup in Gitmo Lowlands. 16 people showed up, of which 3 were women. It's true that was said about these meetups. It truly feels like a support group for people who are red-pilled. And the bar girl asked, hey, who are you? She said, who are you guys? That's my Dutch bar girl. I hit her in the mouth. Most of us turned out to have an IT background. The bar was a good pick. They had enough room, beer and food, no reservations needed. I counted these people: Andre Peters, Sir Pate, Baron of North Holland and Friesland. And he showed up with our heads on sticks, which is always a welcome meetup feature. Sir Hirko Groenewegen, Insta-Knight who just knighted him the other day. Sir D of the Hollandse Rading. Viscount Sir Hoxbergen of the Alps in Zaandam. Viscount Sir Hugger of Kiddies. Gerrit-Jan Doorneweert. Tim Goudriaan. Arnoud Verheij. Sabine. Luca Batinik. Fred van Leeuwen. Associate producer Joep. Someone brought his daughter, but I can't remember who. And there was someone there from, interesting, whose name does not want to be mentioned, but she works at a very left-wing television organization in the Netherlands.
That's all of them. That's redundant.
So it was a good meetup. They had a good time, and I've received several other emails, and I appreciate you guys organizing that. Sir Hirko, who was knighted on the last show, he said actually he needed a jobs karma, so I'm going to do that for him right now.
Jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
And then I've got the list of meetups on the horizon today. That would have been, that's done. The Lisbon meetup. July 9th, Knoxville, Tennessee. July 11th, Charleston, South Carolina. The 13th, Atlanta, Georgia. July 18th, Southeast London. Colorado Springs, July 19th. The Southwest London and Chicagoland. That should be a good one, a good day for London and Chicago. July 20th. On the 26th, St. Louis and Portland, Oregon. And Portland, Oregon. You guys get to give us some reports of what's going on up there. July 27th, Buffalo, New York, and Frisco, Texas. And the 28th still booked for Central Florida. If you have not seen these meetups, then you should go check them out, noagendameetups.com. If there's not a meetup near you, you can start one. It's a great place to meet people, to have conversations without triggering anybody, no condemnation. It's a very pleasant experience. NoAgendaMeetups.com. And thank you all once again for your support of the show today. You can always help us out. We have another show on Thursday. We can use it.
Dvorak.org/NA.
All right. I do have a couple of things left over that I'd like to share because I keep pushing them off. The first one is this report, which has been out there for a few weeks.
Welcome back. A former NASA intern could soon become a millionaire when he sells 3 lost reels of original videotape showing man's first steps on the moon. Imagine that. This is a photo of the reels that will go up for sale through Sotheby's. The auction site says the intern bought these and 1,100 other reels at a government surplus auction for about, get this, $200 in the 1970s. The man told Reuters, quote, "I had no idea there was anything of value on them. I was selling them to TV stations just to record over, to make some money." The man says his father spotted the tape on these 3 reels, which read Apollo 11, the name of the mission where Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin first walked on the moon. And back in 2006, NASA publicly admitted it lost the tapes ahead of the 40th anniversary of that moonwalk. Now they're set to be sold at auction at the end of the month on the 50th anniversary. They're expected to go up for about $2 million.
You know, if these are indeed the tapes that NASA lost,
let's assume they are.
Is it really okay for this guy to be auctioning them off?
Well, it definitely begs a number of questions, including why were they so cavalier to just toss them into the bin that goes and gets auctioned off as, reusable tape? That's the number one question that comes to my mind. And why would you do that? What was the, see, this is the problem with this story, is it's just adding fuel to your fire.
Mm-hmm.
That this whole thing was a scam, and they care so little about it that he didn't even bother.
They tossed them out.
They just tossed them.
Okay, so these are the tapes, and I'm not going to play the clips. We have multiple clips of people saying how horrible it is that they lost the original NASA recordings.
They didn't lose them, according to this story.
No, they threw them out, according to the story. They put them in the dumpster. Now, I wonder if they will
recycling bin.
If they will also contain the telemetry data, which apparently also has been misplaced, lost, or thrown out. And why is it that every person from NASA who knows about the original recordings of the moon landing being lost, why do they all say you couldn't play it today anyway? When these tapes are Ampex 2-inch forehead tapes, yeah. It's old. It's 60s, 70s technology. I can call 5 companies right now who can play those tapes.
They have, right. I should mention this because this is part of, there's a project called the Dead Media Project. And we know that Ampex, there are still a number of these machines left. It's believed, because I look into this myself, it's believed that the number of 2-inch tapes that are still available, the number of tapes will not outlast the life of these machines, no matter how hard you try to fix them. Right now, they have these Ampex machines. They're giant machines. They use this 2-inch tape.
Mm-hmm.
The head flies across the thing up and down. And they believe they can't get enough parts and stuff to keep these machines going as long as they need to be going for the. But it would seem as though these tapes, these 2-inch tapes that we're talking about here, would have high priority. And you're right. There's at least, I don't know how many of these machines are left, but there's enough that they could put it in play right now and dub it.
Yeah, the story is very fishy to me. There's also another story that says the guy went to NASA and they played it back for me, and I guess and here's the tapes. But I mean, this whole thing smells. And it's coming on the 50th anniversary. It's coming up on Space Force. We're supposed to land on the moon in 2024, which is the only reason. The only reason I'm going to continue doing the show is just so in 2024 I can say, see, because we're not going to land on the moon. Don't get your hopes up. It's not going to happen. There'll be some other. Trump is already saying, "No, we should go to Mars." Okay, it's only 1,000 times further. Yeah. Anyway. I
catch on that. I didn't know this was going on.
What?
That somebody found these old tapes, so they picked them up at a government auction for $200.
And NASA doesn't say, "Hey, why don't you give us a copy?" I mean, how
come the guys in the black suits don't show up and just grab the tapes?
And are the tapes actually still good? I mean, they show pictures of these tapes out of their boxes, which is extremely stupid. Certainly Christie's would know better if they're really running this auction. You do not take these tapes out of their the plastic sealed containers with a big turn lock on them. I've carried these around for years. And the minute you expose them to the atmosphere, it can get very, very bad.
I would believe these tapes are still good.
Even though they've been exposed to the elements, to oxygen?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a cellulose movie film that that's dangerous, going to explode. It's just it's a magnetic tape. The problem's going to be, since they've been in storage for so long, there's going to be a lot of crosstalk, which is a real problem with magnetic tape and storing it. That's why you should run the tape every once in a while so you don't have the same magnetic image pushing against the tape at the same exact spot for a very long time, because it'll magnetize it. So you're going to have a messy image.
I see the problem.
But that's really the only danger. And I'm sure it's going to be problematic, but still.
I still have a couple of I think we called them BNCs. Were those no? The BNCs were the smaller ones. Those were the 1-inch
Yeah, the
tapes.
BNC, I think you always use the helical head.
Right.
These heads on these Ampexes were vertical. They just ran straight across the tape, up and down, on a giant spinning thing. It's with 4 heads on it. It's a clunky machine.
I used to be able to calibrate them. And,
what, a 2-inch machine?
Yeah, 2-inch forehead. It went like this. You put up the bars, you roll the tape on the bars, and then there were basically 2 knobs, but you would kick the machine just to the right at the bottom, and that would somehow always get it to align almost automatically.
Sounds like Ampex.
Of course, it was Dutch Broadcasting, so yes, it was totally Ampex.
Okay.
Then, as many know, I'm a big fan of Professor Ted and his writings, The Industrial Society and Its Future. I think he accurately predicted the social justice warrior movement, the social networks. His story has been changed and mutated over the years. We recently had Joe Rogan talk about Professor Ted's, I'm talking about the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, and incorrectly said that Professor Ted went nuts and started blowing people up. No, the true story is he wrote this manifesto, which you can download from any place. You could even get a copy on Amazon. And he felt that what was in there was so important, and that the industrial society through technology would come to a horrible demise. And I think to a degree he's probably right. And he felt it was extremely important that the New York Times and Washington Post published his manifesto. They refused, and then he said, if you don't publish it, it's so important to me, I'm going to start killing people until you do. And he started killing people, and they did. And no one ever even remembers that it was published. But interestingly, and which, of course, I condemn his killing of people, but I suggest you read this document, and you will be surprised by the accuracy of what is going on right now today with social networking and technology, right down to the world coming to an absolute standstill and freak out when Facebook images don't load. Sam Harris of the Sam Harris podcast started his show off the other day with this.
Honestly, I just reread the Unabomber's manifesto for the first time since it was originally published, as you might recall, under threat of further maiming and murder. And it is a slightly crazy document. You can certainly hear Kaczynski grinding his teeth in the background, more or less throughout. But the truth is, it is better reasoned and modulated than half of what I see on Twitter. And this is from people with blue check marks by their names and large followings. So I don't know what it means to be able to honestly say that half the people on Twitter seem less hinged than a man who was sending bombs in the mail. But it does seem that we're performing an experiment on ourselves, the consequences of which are as yet undetermined. Anyway, I'm very happy to have withdrawn to the degree that I have. It feels far more sane.
And when he says withdrawn, he's talking about withdrawing from social media. So maybe if you've only thought, Curry, you nut job, maybe you should give it a listen. I mean, Sam Harris, after all. Don't take it from me. Take it from Sam.
Oh, Sam. Well, I have a couple of things left. One, by the way, it's hot in Canada. And in Alaska, I guess it's 85, 86 degrees up there and everywhere. Things melted. Play the hot in Canada thing, get that out of the way.
Stepped outside and basically started sweating immediately.
Yeah, him and everybody else across Eastern Canada. Lots of places experienced their hottest day so far this year. It felt like close to 40 degrees with the humidity, and there won't be much relief tonight either. Heat warnings are still in place in parts of Quebec, Ontario, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia.
Oh, yeah, of course. Hottest year on record ever. All going to die. Pay your carbon tax, slave.
Yep, 62 here. So there's This is a story that at least I want to run because it's kind of depressing. Of course, I talked to Mimi about this. Mad Magazine shutters. Play the clip.
And iconic Mad Magazine will leave newsstands this fall, ending its 67-year-long run. The satirical magazine, with its gap-toothed mascot, Alfred E. Newman, influenced generations of readers with its subversive humor. At its peak in the early 1970s, it attracted more than 2 million subscribers, but its circulation declined in recent years.
Yeah, that was. I was just going to say that Mad Magazine was a staple for me as a kid growing up.
Well, I mentioned this to Mimi, and she says, "When's the last time you bought a copy?" And there's another example of, well, you never support the thing.
Right.
And so this is going to happen to the podcast the way it's going. You didn't support Mad Magazine. You haven't bought a copy for what, 10 years, and you're bitching about the fact that it's shuttering. Okay, well, maybe it's your fault. Now, there was also a social justice warrior, I understand, that took over the publication.
Oh, really?
That was
sad.
kind of the
That's
end of
sad.
it.
That's sad.
And by the way, I'm one of the few people, if not, I don't even know anyone else who's done it, that licensed the Alfred E. Newman character for a computer book that I did once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we got the license, and it was like, oh, you can't get it. Yeah, no, you can't do that. I said, just ask them if you can get it. Maybe they'll license the character. And they did.
Do you remember what it cost?
No, I don't remember the details. It wasn't much. I remember that much because these guys, was McGraw-Hill, they didn't have that much money. So it was pretty inexpensive. I just think nobody ever asked.
The thing about,
you have to ask once in a while.
I remember as probably 7-year-old, maybe. So 70. Yeah, that makes sense. That Mad Magazine was kind of for a young guy, it had a bit of a porn taint to it.
Taint.
Well, poor choice of words.
He said taint.
Spy versus Spy was of course my favorite. But they always drew chicks, man, and they drew them in very suggestive sexual ways.
Oh yeah, big giant tops and
it was a real it's a real coming of age type thing. So I thought they only stopped publishing the magazine, but they would continue online, or is it really completely gone and done now?
It's hard to say. It was unclear. But the magazine was the magazine.
I have
also in the later years, like more recently, they had some tremendous cover art that was done by some very
always good. Oh, and didn't they have the fold over on the back?
Yeah, that was every so often.
What a classic it was! That was so much fun. Where you would have this picture and then you'd have to fold it in half, or create a fold in it, and that would be something else. It would be the payoff of the joke, which you can't really do in digital anymore. That was a true paper.
You'd have an animation. It'd be not the same.
A true. It's gone. It's just the fold over. It's something that will never come back. It's all gone. It's all gone. Hey, you were talking about Ebola not being mentioned here. We always like to hop on television and talk about gun violence and gun deaths. Not we, but the mainstream media does.
The media does.
Let's check in with Chicago over the weekend.
The holiday weekend is not over yet, and already 57 people have been shot in Chicago, with at least 5 of them killed.
Oh, let's not report on that, people. No.
Well, you don't want to report on that because, if Chicago would just tighten up their gun laws, this wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, they got to make them even tighter.
Oh, let me look. Oh, I'm sorry. Chicago has some of the most stringent gun laws. Huh? How does that work?
Doesn't seem to be for the same reason that Austin is letting people camp out on their streets. It hasn't happened yet, by the way. I've been driving through town almost every day to see if there's any tents on Congress Avenue. It has not happened yet.
It's coming.
Oh, I'm sure it's coming. And pooping on the street is coming. It's all coming. Oh, here's
pooping on the street. Pooping on the street.
Gavin Newsom is your mayor or your governor? What is he now?
He's the governor.
The governor. Here's a little gaffe.
The flag of San Francisco is a phoenix rising that came out of the ashes of the 1906 earthquake. And the phoenix rising is symbolic because San Francisco rose from those ashes.
From those asses?
Yes.
wish that was more clear.
Me too, but it was worth the 11 seconds.
So it looks like the BBC is going to or the British, I think, is ITV. They kind of took the reins and the ideas of the reality TV, and they have this huge hit called Love Island.
Oh, okay. And what is Love
come
Island?
Over to the U.S. now, and here's a report that's kind of interesting because people are participating in the show are killing themselves.
Oh! You know, I've always been a big proponent of showing death on television. Real death is a ratings winner.
Surprised to see me so soon?
Young, attractive singles in a Mediterranean villa looking for love, all while being filmed 24/7.
The public have decided that the islander they want to save is.
There's public voting, a cash prize, and fresh episodes 6 nights a week for 5 weeks. Love Island has captivated millions of viewers in the UK.
Are you ready, America?
And now the hit British reality show's American version will debut this month.
It's a little trashier than you might see on a regular reality show, and it's proud of that trashiness, and it's meant to be kind of like the ultimate guilty pleasure.
But these made-for-TV social experiments are also facing increased scrutiny.
As far as reality television is concerned, we're moving inexorably towards a sort of a version of the Hunger Games.
The UK government launched an inquiry into reality TV to deal with concerns following the recent suicides of contestants, including 2 on ITV's Love Island.
Okay.
So they've apparently, I didn't know this, but they have these shrinks now, and in part 2 will discuss that.
Honey Lancaster James has worked as a resident psychologist on reality TV sets, including Love Island.
I think we're at a time when we really do need to review the kind of psychological welfare services that are put in place on a production.
I'm sorry, Joe. Congratulations, Lucy.
Love Island producers say they will increase psychological supports for contestants after they leave the show, something Lancaster James says is needed.
People seem to think that just because you live in the public eye or you're on TV or you're in the movies, that somehow you've got this amazing life and you should be able to weather any criticism that comes your way because you've chosen a public life.
Toronto firefighter Kevin Wendt knows the risks of starring in reality TV all too well.
It's definitely something you're not prepared for.
Wendt appeared on Canada's Bachelorette and caught the attention of American producers who cast him in the hugely popular Bachelor franchise spin-offs.
Kevin is in the final stage of shooting.
But his newfound fame did pose challenges.
When you just read a few comments online that you're this and that, it can really ruin your day and it can really push you into a depression. And I found myself to be pretty depressed. I did seek help. I went to therapy twice a week for half a year or so after the first show I was on. And then you just slowly kind of rebuild yourself back.
Wendt says something positive did come out of his reality TV experience. Not only did he meet his future wife, he learned to put his mental health first.
Now,
by going on a TV show.
There's a common theme here, as you mentioned, which you can roll, is social media. If he wasn't reading all these comments, that were on social media, and this is true with professional athletes and everybody else, social media is making people kill themselves.
That should be a hint.
That's the big hint. Get off Facebook.
And Twitter and Instagram. Don't worry, these things are falling down flat on their face every single day now. iCloud was out. Centralized services are on the way out, people. Join the Federation! Well, I'm the king of the Federation, so.
And with Tony for king of the Federation.
I need you to walk in front of me and announce me everywhere. And with that, people, ends our deconstruction for today. Thank you all thank you for the trolls who showed up in the troll room. We appreciate that. And those of you who participated in our Value for Value network, coming to you from the frontier of Austin, Texas. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
And from Northern Silicon Valley, for anyone's information, the Zephyr was 10 cars today. I'm John C. Dvorak.
Coming up next, the Grumpy Old Bens with the Electoral College episode. Thanks to, of course, Sir Chris Wilson, UK PMX, and more for our end-of-show mixes. Until Thursday, adios, mofos, and such. Bye.
Maxine's gravel, Maxine's gravel. If I had a gravel, Maxine's gravel, I'd bang it in the morning, I'd bang it in the evening, all over this land. I'd bang out danger, I'd bang out warning, I'd bang out Trump for collusion with the Russians, all over this land. Maxine's gravel. If I could impeach Trump, I'd impeach him in the morning, I'd impeach him in the evening, all over this land. And I'd impeach Kushner, and I'd impeach Putin, I'd impeach them all for collusion with the Russians, all over this land. Maxine's gravel, Maxine's gravel.
Okay, let's go.
What's going on? Why am I losing this? Why don't I have sound? All right, it's back. Someone's pressing buttons and turning my sound up. Someone in that control room is out of control.
Control room? What do you got?
You can stop it if you need to. There's insanity in the control room.
The Labor Day sale. Save on everything store-wide.
The woman talking in my ear was talking about the Labor Day special. Who's got a hammer? Where's the hammer? Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. How do you say this guy's last name?
Dvorak.
Hello.
I'm out, bro.
We did blow that one up.
Why don't I have sound? All right, it's back. What's going on? Why am I losing this? There's insanity in the control room tonight. Someone's pressing buttons. Someone in that control room is out of control. Where's the hammer? Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Someone's pressing buttons. Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering out there. Where's the hammer? Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Someone's pressing buttons. Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering out there. Where's the hammer? Someone's pressing buttons, turning my sound on. Why don't I have sound? All right, it's back. Where's the hammer? Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Someone's pressing buttons. Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering out there. Where's the hammer? Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Someone's pressing buttons. Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering out there. Where's the hammer? Why don't I have sound? All right, it's back. What's going on? Why am I losing this? There's insanity in the control room. Someone's pressing buttons. Someone in that control room is out of control. Stop the hammering out there.
The best podcast in the universe.
Adios, mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA.
Stop the hammering.